Kick off your shoes and stay a while. Let down your hair and soak up the sun. Right now I've got the feeling there's love enough for healing everyone. Hear the rhythm, clap your hands. Sing your song, just do your dance. You can't keep yourself from smiling. All you've gotta do is say, it's all good.
It's all good.
It's alright.
It's alright.
Not a worry in the world, just living life. It's all good.
It's all good.
It's alright.
It's alright.
Take it easy, take it slow. Feel the grass between your toes. It's all good. Some Coltrane and a glass of wine. Feel so fine just hanging with my friends. I can stay right here forever and live this day again and again. There'll be rainy days and nights when things don't work out right. But as long as we're together, hey, that don't bother me. It's all good.
It's all good.
It's alright.
It's alright.
Not a worry in the world, just living life. It's all good.
It's all good.
It's alright.
It's alright.
Take it easy, take it slow. Feel the sand between your toes. It's all good. So many roads that you can take. Do what you love and you just can't go wrong. You can be beautiful each day. See the world in your own way. It's your song. Just sing along. Not a worry in the world, just living life. It's all good. It's alright. It ain't no big deal, just take it light. It's all good. It's alright. Not a worry in the world, just living life. It's all good. It's alright. Take it easy, take it slow. Feel the grass between your toes. It's all good.
it's 7 p.m. somewhere. Regular meetings are held on the first and third Tuesdays of each month at 7 p.m. in the council chambers at City Hall. City Clerk, may you please read the roll?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Davies?
Here.
Councilmember Genoway?
Present.
Councilmember Jennings?
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Minigar?
Present.
And Mayor Susowitz?
Here.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to ask Reverend Monsignor John Urell of the St. Timothy's Catholic Church to come forward for the invocation, and then we'll have Cub Scout Pack 774 come forward to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone will please rise.
Good evening, everyone. I found this prayer that I thought was very appropriate from one of my favorite Irish mystics and theologians. It's called the Prayer for Those Who Hold Power. May the gift of leadership awaken in you as a vocation, keep you mindful of the providence that calls you to serve. As high over the mountains the eagle spreads its wings, may your perspective be larger than the view from the foothills. When the way is flat and dull in times of gray endurance, may your imagination continue to evoke horizons. When thirst burns in times of drought, may you be blessed to find the wells. May you have the wisdom to read time clearly and know when the seed of change will flourish. In your heart may there be a sanctuary for the stillness where clarity is born. May your work be infused with passion and creativity and have the wisdom to balance compassion and challenge. May your soul find the graciousness to rise above the fester of small mediocrities. May your power never become a shell wherein your heart would silently atrophy. May you welcome your own vulnerability as the ground where healing and truth join. And may the integrity of your soul be your first ideal, the source that will guide and bless your work. Amen.
Thank you, Monsignor. And again, Cub Scout Pack 774.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing. Cub Scout Pack 774, Color Guard, advance. Please place your hand over your heart. Those in uniform and veterans salute. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to our nation's flag. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Audience, you may be seated.
All right, and guys, hang out down there. We're going to come join you. All right, the summertime crew. Thank you for showing up, guys. That was great. You guys are still at it during the summer, during your summer break, and so we really appreciate it because this is what makes our evening. Seeing you guys and the gals when they come and do it that are the future leaders of America. You guys, by doing the things you're doing, participating, honoring the flag, getting those badges that you do, helping the community, you're the future leaders, and we depend on you, and we can see that we're in good hands. So what I want you to do is introduce yourself. Just give us your first name and tell us what grade you're going to go into in the fall and maybe what you're going to do this summer that sounds like fun, all right? So your name, what grade you'll be in the fall, and tell us one thing you're going to do this summer, all right? Ready?
My name is Will, and I am going into third grade. something about this summer that is really fun is I will be going to acting camp.
All right. We got a good crowd for that one. Pass it down that one to you.
I'm Sam, and I'm going to third grade, and something fun I'm doing this summer is swimming.
My name is Koa. I am going into third grade, and something fun I'm gonna do is going to San Francisco.
My name is Peyton, and I'm going to third grade. Something fun in the summer what I'm gonna do is go to Glow Zone.
No. Okay. But you can. Right. So my name is Suzanne, and I have a master's degree. But mostly I'm the leader for these guys, and we're actually a big pack. We're 40 boys strong. This is just the summer crew. So thanks for having us.
All right. Well, I didn't mean to put you guys on the spot, but you all did a great job. Are there any parents out there that came along? We want to thank you guys. If the parents could quickly stand up. We know without we're going to take pictures in a second. We know without the parents that these guys can't make it, and so we really appreciate your dedication to not only the troops, not only the scouts, but to the city of Laguna Niguel, because you represent us. So thank you so much. And anyone wants to take a picture, come on up. We'll do that now.
Oh, sorry. You can do it right there. They say color guard dismissed from this spot.
Color guard dismissed.
Go that way.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to stay down here for a couple of minutes because we have a couple presentations. First, we have a resolution for commending Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lundgren. Matthew, you want to stand up and join us up here? He's the commanding officer of the 1st Battalion, 4th Marine Regiment. It is the 1-4 is who the city of Laguna Niguel adopted a number of years ago. With our military support committee, I see we have a great presence over here. I know we've got council members who are very active on this as well. Where's the resolution over here? Here we go. Let's have the gals do that. And I'm sorry, that's just the way I talk. But it seemed like you just got here. Has it been 2 full years and a couple 18 months? Yeah. Okay, so let me do this, and I'll let you talk in a second here. Again, whereas on January 15th, 2016, Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lundgren assumed command of the 1st Battalion, 4th Marine Division, and whereas in 2016, the battalion was assigned to the 11th Marine Expedition Unit, deployed to Southeast Asia and the Middle East, where they participated in bilateral training exercises in Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Oman, Papua New Guinea. And whereas while deployed under Lieutenant Colonel Lundgren's leadership, 1st Battalion, 4th Marines worked side by side with their military counterparts in Malaysia, Sri Lanka, Oman, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Papua New Guinea, and undertook several community relation volunteer projects in an effort to boost relations and further strengthen ties in the region. You're an accomplished Marine whose dedication, commitment, leadership, and love of country has earned you several military awards and decorations. Let it be resolved, the City of Laguna Niguel does hereby commend Lieutenant Colonel Matthew Lundgren, commanding officer, for his outstanding leadership, commitment, dedication to service of his Corps to the country and extends him the best wishes in his future endeavors.
First of all, I want to say thank you. I've been in the Marine Corps for, 23 years now. And this is really the first experience I've had with a community adopting a Marine unit. And on behalf of the Marines of 1-4, about 1,200 of us that deployed in October and just got back in May, I want to tell you how much we really appreciate everything that you all did, from family days to holiday parties, things of that nature. You fight not because you hate what's in front of you, but because you love what's behind you. And I haven't seen a more tangible sign of that than the support we've received from Laguna Niguel. And on behalf of the Marines of 1-4, very small token of our appreciation, and thank you.
All right. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. Next up, we have Dan Fox, our Assistant City Manager. Dan, will you join us up here? For those of you who don't know, Dan is our Assistant City Manager. Sometimes he doesn't get the headlines. Sometimes he's behind the scenes a lot. But Dan is an excellent guy, personal guy to know that's just, wonderful. And he has gotten a promotion to take over as the city manager of the city of Diamond Bar. And we congratulate you in your future endeavors. I was thinking about it. I think I know you the longest. I've known you for about 10 years, I think, when you took over on the planning commission, and then 5 years on council. I guess Fred would know you maybe a little bit longer thinking about it as I'd look this way. But Dan is a guy who's always prepared. He's always ready to, with the answers in terms of the research. He's got a great attitude every day, always, positive, always got a smile on his face. And we're going to sadly miss him. 12 years here with the city of Laguna Niguel. How many years in public service so far? 30 years of public service. And again, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the pinnacle is kind of, for your type of position, is to be a city manager, right? Reaching the top of his goals. So we want to really wish him well and congratulate him. And we really do appreciate your years of service and dedication. I personally enjoyed working with you all those years, and I appreciate all you've done. I'm going to let Fred say a couple words as well, since he worked longer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've known Dan Fox for over 14 years at the great city of Laguna Niguel, I guess more than anybody else. For 8 years, I served with Dan in the planning commission of this great city. I never had a single issue with Dan. When I was chairman of the planning commission, he was very organized. And, as a commissioner, planning commissioner, or as the chairman of the planning commission, the first thing is not to bring any surprises to the planning commissioners. And he did exactly that. He always kept myself abreast of the latest developments in the city. We do have a lot of developments in this great city that we owe Dan because of his expertise as a planner, transportation planner, land developer, and what have you. So the beautiful city of Laguna Niguel does appreciate what Dan Fox has done for us. And by the way, I do know the mayor of city of Diamond Bar. He's my very good friend, Mayor Jimmy Lynn, and I'm gonna have discussions with him because he stole Dan Fox from our great city. So that's a private discussion that I'm gonna have with him. But I wish him all the best. Diamond Bar is another great city, is a master plan community. Beautiful, great city, except they don't get the ocean breeze. So that's the big difference. But with all that said, thank you very much for what you've done for our city.
You know, I want to give kudos to Dan because as a council member, you know, we have the fun plans of coming up with projects and ideas, but we're not the ones that really implement them. Dan is, our city manager is, our staff is. And one of the important projects that I wanted to start up in 2012 was SCORE. And this was, you know, really to help small businesses get a good start. And because of you, we became successful probably in about 6 months. Within our second meeting, we were given an award. And we usually have the highest participation in all our workshops than any other SCORE meeting in Orange County. So I say thank you for that. And also, you know, it's sad to see you go. But one thing I've learned, especially throughout the years, whether it's managing or something like this, when you have good people, you need to celebrate them while they're here because good people are going to leave and they're going to move on to better things. So I'm so grateful that we were able to have someone as good as you, especially I had the opportunity to get to know you. So thank you. I wish you many blessings and so much success.
Well, for any of our residents who haven't had the fortunate opportunity to work with Dan, he's the one that brings together all the professional disciplines that it takes to make a project go. So you go to Dan with an idea and he helps execute it. And he's always been very supportive, and he, along with our city manager, Rod Foster, find a way to do things. When we come up with an idea, they find a way for that to happen. But this is a bittersweet day where we're gonna miss you. You have dedicated quite a bit to Laguna Niguel. The residents have benefited from it. So on behalf of all the residents, thank you very much for the service that you've given to our city. And as a council member, it's been an honor to work with you.
You know, I think you either have a public service gene or you don't. And some people have it in spades. And every now and then people walk into public life and they do something extraordinary. They really do something that impacts people for many, many years to come. And Dan, you're one of those guys. I couldn't be more proud of you as a friend. The one anecdote I have is when I was a wee child and walked into Laguna Niguel with my first appointment here. Dan's the guy that met me, and he walked me in and let me know what it was I'd just gotten roped into. So, and that's a comforting soul. It's a very good place. Worked with you for quite a number of years on planning, and then here again on city council. So proud of you, brother. We're going to miss you big time, and I really, really wish you all successes. Thank you.
I'm overwhelmed. Thank you so much. I don't do it all by myself. I certainly have. Thank you, council, for all your support over the years, and past council members to make these great projects happen. Couldn't have done it without an incredible leadership. City Manager Rod Foster, City Attorney Terry Dixon, and all of the wonderful staff that support me. And I don't do it by myself, and I appreciate everybody all the way down to the front counter, the department heads that have a great working relationship to make these projects happen. It's been a wonderful ability to serve the community here in Laguna Niguel. Just countless projects that I've been involved with, and I truly enjoy doing that. And hopefully I will stay in touch with everybody, and I want to see these park projects get finished and that gateway area get developed. So again, thank you so much for all the support over the years that you guys have given me, and I will never forget it. Thank you.
Gotta get some pictures. Oh, hold it. Here we go. Here we go. This is the better. This is the better deal. If you guys haven't seen this, this is the, Yeah, this is why you come to Laguna Niguel to work. No. So my biggest regret, Dan, he was early on as the what do you call it, community development director, Leslie's job years ago, and we went to San Jose, and we were wondering what to do on the first afternoon before the meeting started. And I said we should all go get tattoos, Dan. Remember that? That's my biggest. We should have had the San Jose. Yeah, then we'd all remember each other. You know. There we go, Dan's place. So Dan's imprint's going to be left all over the city. You know, it really will be. He's got project after project. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to reconvene on top for our next presentation. All right, our next presentation is the Laguna Niguel Community Theater. With that, I need to announce, due to my prior dealings and close relationship with the Laguna Niguel Theater Company, I'm going to recuse myself from the vote and the discussion with regards to the requested fee waiver. And so accordingly, at this point, I'm going to turn the meeting over to my colleague, Mayor Pro Tem Fred Minigar, as I step out.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, I would like to ask Jeremy Golden and the Community Theater Group to come forward for the presentation.
Honorable City Council members, city staff, as Mayor Pro Tem Minigar said, I am Jeremy Golden, the Artistic Director of the Laguna Niguel Community Theater. It is with great pleasure and excitement I come before you this evening to share the latest from your local theater company. Our production of Our Town in March was a great success. Our first non-musical production saw wonderful community support, including oversold houses and collaboration with the Orange County Sheriff's Department and Laguna Niguel Police Services. We now follow this success with our third summer musical, Into the Woods. Clearly, LNCT has made a mark in Orange County. We had more than twice the number of auditionees for this show that we've had at any other past audition, and the talent was unbelievable. The cast is from all around Orange County, too. While almost half the cast lives in Laguna Niguel, we also have cast members from 7 other Orange County cities. This means that audience members will come from all around the county to see our summer production. This is exactly what we've been growing toward these past 2 years. We want to be a theater that is an OC destination here in Laguna Niguel, and this is a major step in that direction. Tonight, the cast of Into the Woods is here to give you a preview of the production. Show dates are July 28th to August 6th. We are also in discussions on a lease for the first permanent space for LNCT. We hope to have it worked out this summer to prepare for a 2017-18 season in a space of our own. Tonight, we ask you to consider supporting our theater once again. There is a request before the council that I ask you to consider in the coming weeks during your budget discussions. With your help and our continued growth, theater and arts in Laguna Niguel will be a beautiful story. Happily
ever after. Journey over, all is mended, and it's not just for today, but tomorrow and extended ever after. All the curses have been mended, and the verses wiped away. All is tenderness and laughter for forever after. There were dangers and confusions, and the crowd would often swerve. There was constant disillusions, but they never lost their nerve, and they reached the right conclusions. And they got what they deserve. Love, sorrow, tenderness, and laughter. Joy today and bliss tomorrow.
mustn't stop, you mustn't swerve, you mustn't wander. You have to fight. Just have your wish, you want your wish, you can have your wish, but you can't just wish, but you can't your wish. Into the woods where love is here, where witches, ghosts, and wolves are near. Into the woods and through the fear, you have to take the journey. Into the woods and down the dell, you may perhaps now you can tell. Into the woods to live the spell. Into the woods to lose the body. Into the woods to have the child. To wed the prince. To get the money. To save the house. To kill the wolf. To find the mother. To marry the king. To have to wed. To get to sing. To kill. To cheat. To go to the festival. Into the woods. Into the woods. Into the woods and out of the woods.
To be continued.
Thank you, City Council. We'll now excuse the cast. They have to get back to rehearsal.
Very good, thank you. At this juncture, I'm pulling consent item number 13 for discussion, and that is the Laguna Niguel Community Theater request for amphitheater rental policy exemption and fee waiver. Parks and Rec Director, Alison Giglio. May I have a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you, Honorable Mayor Pro Tem and City Council members. The Laguna Niguel Community Theater is requesting an extended rental of the Crown Valley Park Amphitheater to showcase a community production of Into the Woods. The requested dates of July 17th through August 6th would accommodate 8 rehearsals and 5 performances. Laguna Niguel Community Theater is also requesting that all facility use permit fees be waived for the use of Crown Valley Park. Therefore, City Council consideration of the event policy exception is required. It is recommended that the City Council approve rental exceptions of the Parks and Recreation Facilities Use Policy to allow an extended rental of the Crown Valley Park Amphitheater, allow a storage unit to remain on Crown Valley Park property for the duration of the event, and a food truck during performances, and waive summer 2017 rental permit fees up to $4,350. I can answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Do I have any yellow slips from the public wishing to discuss this item?
Not at this time, Mayor Pro Tem.
I guess none. Can I proceed to discuss the item? I start with Council Member Laurie Davis, please.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. First of all, great job. And I know you have been working really hard to find a home. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this works. Is it in Laguna Niguel? Yes. Fantastic. Great. So thank you. I know you guys, that was one thing I just wanted to make sure, because we give a lot to the community, and you guys have really shown, taken that step. So I appreciate that. And I definitely would make a motion to approve this. Thank you.
Before you do so, I would like to have, if there are any other discussions.
I have comments.
By my colleague to the left, Council Member Elaine Genoway, please.
The sooner left, okay.
My left.
Okay. Well, thank you for the performance. Absolutely loved it. And just, have a comment that I'd like to make. And, words have meaning, and what we say from this dais also is what we do in the community. And I am very happy to support your request for this fee waiver. And because, I'm amazed at how quickly you've grown and the support that you've gathered in the community. And this is also reflected, I know a couple of months ago, I have talked about starting with some residents in our city, an arts commission. And I think you may have been at some of the meetings or were notified about them. But the Arts Commission, which is not a city commission, but it's made up of many residents, the beginning, when they started out, they did a survey of Laguna Niguel. And what do people want to see in arts? Because there's performing arts, there's 2D, there's 3D. The people who started this thought we were going to have statues in public places. And it turned out that I think the community theater has had a great impact on our residents, because the Laguna Niguel residents' perception of arts is performing arts. And that's what they want to see more of. So I commend you for the outreach you've had in the community, and I respect what you've done, and I appreciate your bringing together many talented individuals to present performing arts to our city. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilmember John Mark Jennings, last but not least.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I too think this is a great addition to our town. I mean, cities are about this. Cities are about things that are interesting. They're just not about going to work. This is about life. And the arts add tremendous amount to life. One of the things that we've talked about from this dais of people who've asked us for either donations of some sort or fee waivers is what are they doing for themselves that would warrant a request from the council and the city to try to support their ongoing cause. And I am familiar, and I've been to your events, and I've seen your things and your fundraising efforts, and the over 2-year process that you've gone through to try to find a home and the efforts that you're putting into that. I know that it's a very close thing that you're there, and I wish you all the best on that, and can't wait to see the production coming up this summer. So congratulations to you all, and I really look forward to what's everything that is to come. If that was a motion, I'll second it, if that's okay.
Before we finalize our motion, thank you very much. I wanted to echo what my colleague said. I've had personal first-hand presentation by the team at my home, so they are excellent. I have no questions with regard to their quality. They're definitely an asset to our community. Before we finalize our motion, I do have 2 questions from our city attorney. Number 1 is with regard to, do we have a set policy, Mr. Dixon, with regard to city fee waiver?
Mayor Pro Tem Minigar, members of the council, we do not have a set policy that's been considered and acted on by the council. Basically, what's happened is as organizations make requests for fee waiver, the particular organization and their request is evaluated by the council and acted on accordingly.
So, I understand you correctly, it's on a case-by-case basis.
That is correct.
Based on the merit of the application or the applicant or the team.
Yes.
Number 2 question is, this goes to Allison. In the past, I know we have community development block grants that we get federal funding. I mean, any city in America does get those fundings. So those fundings would go to the ad hoc committee that we have. We have 2 council members that they typically take care of that, and then they come to the city council for the final ratification of those, I guess, awardees. So from your perspective, do you have any criteria for any organization, religious institution, i.e. a church group, synagogue group, I don't know. I mean, any group that would come to the city would come to you if they would request for any kind of accommodation to potentially utilize the beautiful amphitheater that we have. Do you have any set guidelines?
We do have a facilities use policy for Parks and Recreation, and it is under review for the future. When the amphitheater was redone, we found some things that need to be updated because it is pretty old. But we take each request on a case-by-case basis, and we do follow the facilities use policy as it's currently written. So that's why we, with this particular item, it does exceed what our current facility use policy allows, and so that's why we presented it to the City Council for consideration.
So to I understand you correctly, obviously it's the discretion of the City Council, and I do see the overwhelming majority of my colleagues, including myself, that happen to be in favor of approving this item. So with that, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve
Again?
the request.
Any second?
Second.
The motion is approved unanimously. So I guess at this juncture, Madam Clerk, you can ask Mayor Schlusowitz to join us to move on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem Minigar and my fellow colleagues. Next, we move to the consent calendar. This concludes our presentation to this evening. So I guess, I'm sorry, public communications will be first. Any person wishing to address the City Council on any matter, whether or not appears on the agenda, is required to submit a gold-colored request to speak form. They're in the back corner. Provide that to our city clerk prior to being heard by the City Council. Each person will be given 3 minutes to speak. Do we have any other additional request to speak form?
No, Mayor, not at this time.
Okay, if you want it, you could fill one out now. First, Sandy Rains. Sandy, please name, address, and 3 minutes.
Representing the Laguna Niguel Chamber of Commerce today, and we would like to invite you all to participate in the July 4th Pancake Breakfast we will be hosting. It's $5 for pancakes and sausage. It will be starting at 7 a.m. during, I guess they do the run in the park, and it'll go till about 10:30. We are looking for volunteers, so we'd love to see the City Council there in their red, white, and blue celebrating with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Michael David Curtis. Michael David, and then name and address, please. And then you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Michael David Curtis. I reside at 29821 Stordahl Circle in our great city of Laguna Niguel. Just very short, I'd like to comment that I walk a lot, and I notice a lot of things in our city, our great city, that new and some existing structures that have been here since the solid 33 years I moved here. So I also do drive, and I just wanted to comment on the new signs. They are the road signs that are in front of, what would it be? A triangular yellow sign, the 40 miles per hour, right as you're approaching Niguel and on Alicia, heading towards the ocean. I just want to say that I'm very impressed, because I think that these new speed limit signs are very effective. And I still realize a lot of people don't notice them, but I do, and I try to keep the speed limit under the speed limit or right at it. So, and I also noticed the electronic signs that say "slow down." You know, I don't know exactly what they say, but there was one that said "slow down" and drive carefully. I think they're just very effective, and I just would like to comment on that and just pursue. Be sure to make that it's a continuing effort, because it is working, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael David. Next up, Ted Wells. Ted, you're up.
I was a little early because I was talking about the
Oh,
community
you want to wait
center.
till we do that?
Yeah, it
We
might
can
be
do that.
better for
Okay.
that. Yeah, it might
Sure,
be
no
better.
problem. I
Yeah,
get
that'd
it.
be okay.
Sure, we'll do that, Ted. Thank you. Okay, any other requests to speak for him? Okay, we're going to close public comments for now, and we're going to move on to the consent calendar. Just make sure I have my numbers right. I guess, so that would be 1 through 12. Are there any items that need to be pulled? I'll start on my left. Councilmember Jennings, Councilmember Genoway, Mayor Pro Tem, Councilmember Davies.
11 and 12 for a comment, please.
11 and 12 for comment. And
Move the balance.
well, hold on. I want to pull. I just want to make a quick comment on 5. That's not really pulling it, but I have to. So there you go. Oh, yeah. Go ahead. There we go. Pull the balance. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. 5. The only thing I want to say is, looking this over, just really want to thank what our sheriff's department does. You guys do yeoman's work. We know that you are overworked, understaffed, overburdened, but you do a great job for the city. I mean, we're one of the top-ranked safety cities in America. And I was doing the math, looking at all this stuff. Now, this is Orange County Sheriff employees at the Laguna Niguel. They're not all deputies on the street walking the beat, but it looks like we have basically, if you round it out to 60, for about 66,000 residents. So that's about 1 per 1,100 residents, an Orange County Sheriff employee here in Laguna Niguel. And again, not all of them are out on the beat. But, with those kind of numbers, you guys do a great job, and I just wanted to point that out to our residents. This is the biggest item in our budget every year, and I just thought it was important to thank you for your service. Unless there's any other comments from my colleagues, I'll move item 5.
Second.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Okay, item 11, Councilmember Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is in regards to the city putting together a drug overdose awareness memorial. And something, since I've been on council since 2012, the city has really taken drug addiction as a very serious issue, especially when it comes to teens and prescription drugs. So we've been working a lot with Jody Barber, who lost her son to prescription drugs. And on October 23rd, we're going to be having a ceremony over at the park. It's going to be kind of by where the new parking lot is as you come to the bridge. And we're going to have a memorial, and we're going to have a plaque that will be on a rock. But what we want is it's an area where kids are going to be going to the softball area, and we want people to know, that we take this as a very serious matter. And it'll say, "This tree is planted as a living remembrance of the lives lost too soon due to drug overdose, and is an inspiration to our youth to choose to live drug-free." And I want to thank the entire council, from the mayor, who has worked on workshops with me over the years, Councilmember Genoway, Councilmember Jennings, and Mayor Pro Tem. Again, this is very important to us, and I'm grateful. We've been very fortunate that one of our vendors, Abbott & Associates, has donated for 2 years in a row $25,000. So we've been able to use this money to put on workshops, and we will continue to put on educational programs throughout the year. So with that, I move. Thank you.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Item 12, again, Councilmember Davies.
Thank you. I just want to bring this to the council, and again, I greatly appreciate the support here. Up in Sacramento, obviously, there's a lot of bills being pushed through right now, and personally, a lot of them make no sense, and a lot of them are really trying to take local control away from us. And Senate Bill SB 231, the Hertzberg, proposes an amendment to the California Constitution to expand the definition of sewer service to include stormwater management, which could allow new taxes or assessments without a vote to other residents. And we are recommending that the city opposes it. I'm also on the League of Cities. Today, the division did oppose this as well. My main concern, I was up in Sacramento last week, and we were voting on this along with, I'm in the Transportation, Communication, and Public Works Policy Committee, and the Environmental Committee was there as well. And my concern was, this is a tax, and to me, it's taxation without representation. And this is a constitution law in California that we have the right, we the people have the right to vote on a tax. But what this does is basically undermines and says, no, we don't have to. And what they're saying is, well, this is local control. We're going to let local control decide if they want to tax, their residents. But it's not just a city local control. It's local control agencies. So it could be your water department. It could be your county. It could be the city. And for me to find out that someone could just go ahead and tax us, and all of a sudden you're going to get your bill and go, what's this? And you never had the right to know about it. Other concerns I had up there, listening to different points of view, because that was my point of view, is, you know what, we have educated voters here, and if we have to, we'll do outreach programs to let them know what this bill is and why it's important, and that's our job. But some of the responses I got was from other cities and directors, basically that, the people don't always have time or really don't know what they're voting on, so we really shouldn't leave it in their hands. And for that, it completely disturbed me. And so I wanted to make it a point that we do oppose this, that Orange County League of Cities opposes this. I know the ACCOC is looking at this as well. So I'll guarantee if you want, contact Assemblyman Bill Breaux as well as Senator Pat Bates. Let them know you oppose SB 231. And it's going out there. But again, this is the sewer tax that has no cap. They can continue to keep adding, and adding. We know how that goes. So I appreciate your time. Again, I'm very passionate about this, and I thank the council as well for your support for opposing this. Thank you. And with that, I'll make a motion.
I'd like to make a comment to it.
Just to add on. Thank you for your support as well, Councilmember Genoway.
Well, and to add to what Councilmember Davies has said, this is an attempt to rewrite a proposition that was already passed by the voters. It's an attempt to rewrite Prop 218 by changing the definition of the words in the proposition and then taxing us. So this is something that people wonder, well, why are we getting involved with this type of legislation? This is because it's taking away local control, and it's trying to find a way to impose taxes on our taxpayers and our ratepayers here. And this is just some of the stuff that goes on in Sacramento that we have to constantly watch for. But to attempt to rewrite an existing proposition by changing the definition so you don't have to go to the voters for a tax increase, that's just wrong, and that's why we are opposing it. Thank you.
Great. And you did second it, right? Okay, and thank you both for your lead on this. Is there any other comments by my colleagues? All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Great. Thank you very much. Let's move on. That concludes the consent calendar. We are now on to Parks and Recreation. First business item this evening is the Crown Valley Park Community Building Schematic Design. We're going to have Parks and Rec Director Allison Giglio. Will you please provide your presentation?
Yes, thank you, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. We're excited to bring to you the next phase in the planning process for the new community building at Crown Valley Park. LPA, the city's architectural design team, created schematic designs based on a variety of public input provided during the space planning analysis. The city and LPA recently hosted 2 community workshops to collect feedback regarding the floor plan and site plans. Information was then presented to the Parks and Recreation Commission for their input and approval at the June 12th meeting. I'm happy to report that the Parks and Recreation Commission approved the floor plan and site plans that will be presented to you tonight. The commission also provided feedback regarding the building design, with the majority of the commissioners liking the mid-century style flat roof option that you will see. And we are looking for your approval, though, on the final building design, so no pressure tonight. It is recommended that the City Council provide additional input or direction to be considered in the design of the community building and adjacent outdoor areas, approve the schematic designs, and select a building design style. And I would now like to introduce Jim Wyrick, Principal, and Jeremy Hart, Associate and Senior Project Designer from LPA, who will present the schematic designs to you for your consideration and answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for having us tonight. We are here to present the culmination of the schematic design process for the Crown Valley Park Community Center. So we're going to run through a few different topics today. We're going to sort of update everybody on the status of the floor plans, provide you the feedback that we heard in those public outreach meetings, review some design alternates, and then go into the schematic design cost estimate for the project, and then update everybody on the schedule, where we are in the overall project schedule. So moving right in, orienting everybody. So we've got the 2 existing swimming pools, and the new community center will sit on the site of the existing community center. You see it labeled there with the white box with the label in the middle. If we take away the trees, we can see a little bit more detail on the project. We are providing a drop-off zone right there where you saw the word drop-off come up. And that drop-off is designed to allow, cars and buses to come in, drop people off, and then turn around and head back out of the park should they desire, or move on and park wherever they need. We then have our main entry right off that drop-off zone and that plaza out in front of the main entry. And then we also have access to the building from the pool deck. So at its root, we are serving the public who uses the pool, and then down on the lower level, and then on the main level of the building, we have other community center services. If we dive into the building a little bit, we'll start down on the first floor, the lowest level, adjacent to the pool. So just to orient everybody, that red line you see is a retaining wall condition. So we are sort of burying the building into the hillside. I like to use a reference to, I'm from the Midwest, and we have walkout basements in the Midwest, and so we're burying one side and we can walk out onto the pool deck from the other. That's where the pools show up. And then we have a control point where we have free access to the pool on one side of that red oval, and then controlled access before you have to check in at the desk with staff before you can head out of the pool. Lots of access points to the pool, a new ADA accessible ramp, new ADA accessible handrails and steps up to the pool deck, and then lots of access in and out from the locker rooms and the building to the pool deck. And then we also have that gray box that you see that's buried into the hillside. That's all the storage. So one of the things we really want to do is make sure that there's enough storage for everything that we want to do in the park. And so we're taking those shipping containers that sit in the parking lot and everything else that's stored on site, and we're going to put it all in the building To provide access, at the top of the page, you see, or the top of the screen, you see there's an elevator, a service elevator, so we can easily get all that stuff up and down from the park level into the storage. And then those areas at the bottom are also access that we can get sort of at grade if we need to bring a golf cart or some sort of truck down there to load things in and out. The purple sort of space in the middle, top of the page, that's your locker room facilities to serve the pool. So new, fully accessible locker rooms, shower stalls, restrooms, and lockers and sink facilities, everything you would need to serve the pool. The box in yellow, sort of just on the other side of the red oval, that's your aquatic staff space, controlling all that access in and out. Where you saw those arrows come up right in the middle of the page, that is the stairs that take us up to the main level of the building, and we'll see how those stairs sort of interact with the entry on the next slide. But really, we've got this 2 or 3 story atrium space, depending on where you sort of sit, that connects all the levels of the building, and those stairs take up half of that sort of 25-foot wide atrium space, and those stairs are your main access down to the lower level. And then we also have a set of exterior stairs where they just showed up, and so from building grade you can also walk down or up those stairs to move between the levels. At the main level, just to orient everybody again, there's our drop-off zone and our front doors. That red arrow right there, those are that 12-foot wide stair that takes you down to the wet level. So as soon as you walk in the building, if you're headed to the pool, you can head straight down to the pool deck. You don't have to sort of wander around the building to find your way. And if, again, conversely, if you're leaving, you can head straight out the building. You don't have to drip water through the main level of the building. We also have another stair that sort of winds on the other side of that to take you up to the 3rd level. The green box on the bottom, that's our 4,800 square foot community room. It can be divided into 2 different spaces depending on how we set the space up with chairs or tables and chairs. There's lots of different ways you can use it. In a banquet style seating with 8 seats at a table, you could get 300 people there. You could get about 400 people if you set up with chairs in a lecture style, or you can divide the room in half and use it any number of ways. The restrooms right above that, and then that darker green box, that's our catering kitchen, full service catering kitchen. It'll have warming ovens, a stove, oven, lots of racks, refrigerators, ice makers, freezers, everything that a caterer would need to prep and warm and serve any sort of event that might occur in that banquet room, or any other room that might need some catering services for that matter. At the other half of the building, we've got some active movement rooms for dance studios. We've got some smaller classroom spaces, trying to make them as flexible and multi-use as possible. Some of them are divisible into smaller spaces. The orange space over there, that's an art classroom. It'll be set up with a durable, surfaces that can be easily cleaned, wash sinks for kids afterwards, places, cubbies for kids to dry their art projects after they're done. Those red X's that you see that just came up on the screen, those are sort of holes in the floor so that you see that connection down below to the wet level. And really the intent behind that is when you arrive at the building, you walk through that front door, we want to celebrate the great amenity that is here at the park, the pool. And so always having that connection, the second you arrive, having that visual connection to the water, that sort of right on access at eye level with the diving boards and the dive tower opposite the pool. And we'll see some more exhibits that show what that looks like later. We've got staff entry at the top of the page, and that's where that service elevator comes up, and you can go down to that the storage below, or even up to the spaces, the roof deck up on the 3rd level. And then there's those stairs that take you down to the lower level, and then we've got this wraparound patio. And so with that community room, that large community room at the bottom of the screen, we have this wraparound patio, and we're proposing these operable doors, operable partition walls that open up. So really on a great day, you could expand the size of that room by 10 feet in either direction, take advantage of the great breezes, the great climate that we have here in Laguna Niguel, and really make this sort of an indoor-outdoor space, a community room that's sort of in the nature. Moving up to the 3rd level, that's where the stairs that brought us up to this level take you back down. And then we've got access to staff, and then access out to the roof deck. The roof deck serves about 250 people, depending on how you set it up. Standing room only, less than that if you set it up with tables and chairs. And then you've got all the staff offices, so we're going to get the staff out of the portable trailers that they're in, put them in some real space, some nice indoor conditioned inside the building. So we took these plans and we developed a series of alternate designs. And in our public outreach workshop, we presented both of these options, and we received feedback on the two options that we carried forward to the public. And for this option, we got a number of comments. They like this one, like the roof, but don't like the arches. Somebody said, this building says, "Look at me," tends to stand out, which is concerning in a park. Somebody liked this one, but not the arches. A couple people said they like this one. And then, sorry, looks too much like City Hall. It stands out too much in the park. So this was our first option. The intent and the design intent behind this option was to really start to mimic the look and appearance of City Hall, make that civic connection between the two buildings. The second option, this more mid-century look option, flat roofs, lower scale, sort of setting it in the park, deeper overhangs for some solar protection, really trying to nestle the building into the park. But again, built upon the same principles. And I guess I should have said this before, it's important to note that both of these buildings functionally, the floor plans are identical. It's just the skin that we wrap around the building, how we treat the building. In both these options, we've got this glass atrium piece in the middle that connects you from the drop-off space all the way out to the pool deck. And so as I said, we presented both these options. We had a lot more feedback on this one. Somebody saying we need more parking, we love the balcony. The design appears to have larger windows because of the smaller building. They like this one, winter it blends better. This one is more park-like, blends with the nature. They like the Crown Valley Park sign on the pool. Love the front of the building, like how it blends and feels like a home. Somebody's suggesting we add the city seal. Somebody liked this one, design option 2, modern flat design. We love the building, add some stone. This is another one about adding stone, like the smaller contemporary building in a park setting. So there was a lot more feedback on this one, but we did receive some feedback on both, verbal and what was up here. And so we took what we heard from these and we brought the designs back and thought, oh, how can we respond to some of these designs before we sort of carry it forward? We want to make sure we're responding to the comments we received from the public. One of the other comments that we heard was, why are we trying to make the building look like City Hall from a material standpoint? We've got a couple of buildings already, the amphitheater, the splash pad, and the structure's already there. And so the intent was, or the direction was, we should make both of these options pick up on and build upon what we've already started in both tiers 1 and 2 in the park. And so with that in mind, we sort of took a step back and we thought about, from a color and materiality standpoint, using of the stone, how can we take these materials and apply them to the building? And so there's a couple of animations we're going to go through. Whoops. All right, here we go. So this is an animation of option 1. It's got the pitched roof that the City Hall has, a lot of the same detailing with the arches. Here you're seeing that large community center. It juts out on a balcony over the edge down to the riverbed. Backside, looking back down towards the pool, here you get a good sense of what that roof deck starts to look like. Again, we're using the same tile roof that's over at the splash pad, same color and profile, so it doesn't have the Spanish tile that we have here at City Hall. You see those arches, and then that window that sort of captures you and draws you into the other side. Another view, sort of looking from an eye level point of view as you drive up to the building. Here we're going to sort of go through a little bit of the landscape pieces. So we've got this plaza space that we're proposing, using a vehicle-rated paver system to let you know that you're in a sort of different zone, creating this, using the hillside to sort of terrace in some public spaces, lots of seating and places for people to gather and have different events, but also providing a shade structure. We want to make, let people, give them the opportunity. I want to be in the sun or I want to be in shade, give everybody an opportunity to enjoy the space. Moving back over that main plaza space, you see some of those parking stalls out there. That could be where you'd set up food trucks if you were having an event at the amphitheater. Here's the drop-off zone. Again, those windows you see directly ahead, that's your active movement room, or your dance classes or yoga studio might be. And then we're going to swing around and sort of get a look at that front door, that first view that you'll see right through the building. You see how the stairs and the holes in the floor start to interact. Got two little boys who are desperate to get into the pool. And there you see that connection with the water right through the building. And now we're going to sort of take a look at the backside from the pool and move around. You see those balconies sort of hanging out over the pool deck, a nice place to sort of get up out of the sun. And then here you're seeing some arches and some applied skin to that YMCA building. This is something we'll be exploring further as we move forward in the project, but this was one of the ideas that we had explored. How do we treat the edge of that YMCA building? Really make everybody know that this is the Laguna Niguel pool, not the YMCA pool. Now look, coming back to the room, back to the building, you've got the community room on one edge there, and then we will come around. Here's our new ramp and stairs that lead us up to the pool deck, providing some bench, some additional places to set. And then our balconies coming off the main lobby. And then here's another look at that hole through the building. We've cut the floor line away, and then up on the pool deck with our deep overhang from the roof structure, we can get a look back through to the front of the building, almost through. Turn around and take a look back at the pool. And we'll move back to the pool edge, and here you'll again see that treatment on the facade of the YMCA. Really just an option that we've explored, something that we've accounted for in the budget and the cost estimate, but designs that we'll continue to study further. So a couple of still images of the project. Here's what the building would look like. Again, picking up on the same stone and color and material, the roof materials of the structures already built in tiers 1 and 2. A view looking back from the pool deck, back at the building. And then lastly, a view from that, back from towards the amphitheater, looking back towards the building, what you might see if you were standing at the amphitheater. So this was option 1. Next, we're going to go through the same animation sequence on the flat roof design, just to give you a sense. You can start to see where the different parts and pieces set in the aerial view. Coming around the building, you'll see that the flat roof provides lots of opportunities, potentially for future solar panels if you want to install them. The flat roof sets up an ideal orientation for that. Sort of moving around the building, you start to see the different treatment on the trellis. So instead of the arches marching around the building, here we're using a wood trellis element. Come back down to that eye level view. Drive up and approach the main entry. And then once again, we're going to go back through that landscape space. This space is also a zone where you could potentially do your Festival of Lights. You could string them along this arcade, marching them all along, and then setting up another Christmas tree at the end of the procession. Shade structure. Back up. You'll notice as we approach back towards the dance studio, the room on the lower level right there in the center of the view. Here, just a different option on that dance studio. Instead of having floor-to-ceiling glass, just an option where we pick up the glazing to about 5 feet to let you do mirrors or ballet bars or whatever you might need in that dance studio. Just a different way of looking at it, something we can explore further. Come back to the same two little boys still waiting to get in the pool. Once again, see that opening all the way through out to the pool deck. Finish up with our view looking back at the roof deck. Around, you'll see a different treatment to the YMCA building on this one. Instead of using the stone arches, we've brought some stone to the face of the YMCA, but instead of having the arches, we're proposing the trellis structure. The trellis structure could be nice to sort of shade the jacuzzi out of the direct sun. It still provides us a place to put a sign. Coming around the pool again. On this one, instead of having the big overhang that we have off of the sloped roof, we're proposing a trellis structure up on the roof deck, giving you opportunities to be in the sun or the shade, depending upon your desire. Coming around the ramp and the new stairs. Back up to the roof deck. That trellis structure starts to feel like up on that upper level. Once again, turn around and get one final look back at the pool. Again, adding planters up on the deck, we want to make the roof deck feeling as warm and friendly and inviting as we can. The planting also helps us provide a little bit of a barrier at the edge, keep people away from the far edge. And once again, some static views of what that looks like and feels like from the main entry. Back around at the pool deck. It's a good shot where you have that community room out on the edge and that wraparound balcony bringing you out sort of into the treetops. That view from the amphitheater looking back at the building. So these are the two options. We've got the one that has the same sort of look and feel as City Hall, and then this flat roof option, design option 2. We took both of these options and we had our cost estimator sort of let us know the price difference or what the building was going to cost at the end of our schematic design drawing set. The option 1, the sloped roof option, turns out to be about $600,000 more expensive than the flat roof option. That's because the tile roof is more expensive than a flat roof. There's more surface area. The volume of it is a little bit bigger. So it works out to be about $600,000. And then we went a little further to try to itemize some of the things that we've added to the project. So adding the stone veneer to the building. What is the cost of that roof deck? We really wanted to know all the parts and pieces as we were going along and what that was doing to the budget. So we've got different line items there itemized for you. Addition to that, we've added, the contractor's fees and costs, the general conditions for the project, insurance, bonds. We really want to give you an overall sense of the construction costs of the project, including the FF&E, the furniture, fixtures, and equipment that go into the building. So the sloped option 1 comes out to about $25 million, and the flat roof option, $24.6 million. 25.1, 24.6, so $500,000, $600,000 rough difference between the two projects. The next thing we were asked to sort of bring to your attention was, as long as we are exploring the development of the building and doing a treatment to the YMCA, we wanted to make sure we weren't leaving something out of the equation. So what was not in our original scope and budget that we wanted to bring for your consideration was the cost of replacing those existing, the fence around the pool deck, the cost of replacing all the guardrail, and the cost of the canopy structures around the pool deck. So should we try to tie everything together, or should we just focus on what we initially had? And so just to sort of repaint and repair some of the existing fencing, that was $13,500. If we wanted to go out and replace all of the guardrail and fencing around the pool deck with new fencing and tie it into the new building, that would be $130,000 additional cost. And then if we wanted to take down those existing canopy structures and replace them with new canopy structures, that cost is an additional $145,000. So just some additional things for your consideration if you wanted to add that into the scope of the project. And then lastly, we wanted to talk about where we were in the overall project schedule. So we have just completed the schematic design phase. We're here tonight seeking your approval and blessing on a design direction as we carry forward into the design development phase. We will spend about 3.5 to 4 months in the design development phase really working through the finite details, what does everything look and feel like, what's carpet are we going to put in, what's the tile in the bathrooms, what color are the walls inside the building, where does the art go. We really are going to dig into the really nitty-gritty details of the interior finishes and the design of the project operationally. And then once we've completed that, we'll dig into the construction documents where we do all the drawings that the contractor needs to build the project. That'll take about 5 months. By the time we finish that, it'll be February of 2018, at which time we'll go into plan check. We'll get out a plan check in June. We think we maybe can start some of the site construction early. We might be able to do some demo in early April, and then by June to August of 2018, we're doing some road work so we can make sure that people can still access the YMCA and other park amenities while we're under construction, and then actual construction of the building beginning in August or September of 2018, taking us through November of 2019 for an opening in December of 2019. With that, we're available for any questions you may have about the project or the process.
Thank you, Jeremy. Hey, I know we probably got a lot of questions, but I'm going to move for the public comment first and let them speak at first, and then we'll come back to you, if that's okay. So now we have Ted Wells, and Ted, if you can just introduce yourself, 3 minutes, and go ahead.
Okay, good. You know, it was great being at the Parks and Rec Commission meeting. That worked out really well, and everybody got to learn a lot, so that was really good. I know all of you, and I know you all know all of me, and it's, as you know, I live in the oldest building here in Laguna Niguel, the very first building ever built. So when you look at an old aerial photograph from that time, the only building that exists is my house. So that I'm very happy about. But the whole point being, it was very good with the Parks and Rec that we were able to move forward on option 2. That was the only option that was popular. And there's other issues we can go into related to the aesthetics in the city that have been a big problem with the residents. And as you know, no matter for whatever reason, people decide to contact me about this stuff, which I find quite interesting, actually, but it is a big issue. So option number 2 was the one that was the only people that contacted me about that. So as we go on with that, the other comments that we had related to the meeting, the fake stone that we're using in the city is not a good idea. It's bad to have fake veneer on all of us. That doesn't make any sense. It's important to know that Laguna Breca, which is the stone between South Laguna and Dana Point, we're filled with it in the city. And so if you come down to West Green Drive and look at what we get in our yards, which is, in my own yard, over 300 tons of stone from this area. And when all of that was dug out of Monarch Bay Plaza when they were just doing the Montessori school recently, and they got over 10,000 rocks the size of cars. And I contacted the city to see if you guys wanted any stone. Nope, nobody wanted it. So I ended up working with South Laguna, and that's why we ended up with a lot more stone down there that was from this area. So it is important to realize what the history is about here. And as you know, I'm a historian. And that's really what it's about. People can do whatever they want to do, but I'm always very happy to educate people. So related to this design, that is an issue. The second issue, and this is related to the residents who live, you know, we're in a very steep community as far as the hills are, the steepest community in South Orange County. They don't want to be looking down on buildings and have to look at the equipment that is hiding from the street, but not hiding from the residents.
You have 30 seconds.
So that's fine. I can finish stuff really quick, so it's no big deal. But that's another issue. Just take that into account related to the building and planning departments when we're going over the plans, because that continues to be something that drops on my desk for whatever reason. That's what happens. So it's really important. I'm very happy with number 2, so are the residents. So that worked out really well, and what you guys have come up with has been good. It's been a nice plus, frankly, for what's going on. So
that's your time.
Any other issues? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Okay. So now I'm going to open up to my colleagues to have a discussion about this item, and whether we want to talk amongst ourselves or ask the designers any questions. I'll start with you, Councilmember Jennings.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for the public's benefit, we've gone through these plans a number of times. LPA's done a great job of walking us through it, showing us what the options are, what's possible here, and we dream fairly big, and I think that's showing up in some of these plans. I I have a confession to make. I think I was originally an option 1 guy, and I'll tell you why. And that's because I'm borrowing something that the mayor told me, and it happens to be true about myself and others, that I lived here for a very long time before I realized that Crown Valley Park was a city park and not a YMCA park. And I was looking for almost anything that I could do to tie in the city's ownership and a sense of community into that park so that when you go in there, it's clear that it's us. I think there's a way to do that, and my original thought was, well, you know, why don't we mirror the buildings a little bit, make them at least complement each other, at least that ties it in some way, and I completely respect LPA's position on that, and I see why they went that way, and it makes a lot of sense. Looking sort of historically and just sort of at this being a park building, the mid-century style, I think, is very attractive. I don't know how many straw polls I've been part of now, but several rooms where people have put their hands in the air, and it's always overwhelmingly in favor of option 2 on the mid-century building. So I completely get that. I'm a mid-century guy. I like that stuff anyway, so it's pleasing to me. One of the things I noted, I'm picking up on something that Mr. Wells said, but the 2 comparisons, there was a slide each on the overviews, where the mechanical on option 1 was covered by what looked like louvers or something. It was set back into the slope and it was louvered. But on option 2, it's just a recess into the flat roof, and I didn't know if there was an option that LPA might have to do some type of additional treatment on that. That's a question if it could be done, but
It's certainly a possibility. We can look at providing a cover, a louvered color cover. We are going to be restricted by the need to get airflow, the need to get access for service. It's something we can explore moving forward, looking at the sight lines from the hillside and the homes up above the building to sort of see what that exposure is. There's probably a few things we can look at.
Yeah, sort of like the trellis materials that you have wrapping around the building, and it seemed like that would complement on the roof lines as well as you're looking down as sort of one big comprehensive piece.
Yeah, we'd probably have to orient them north-south so that the folks from the east and west aren't looking down. We did a similar detail on a city hall up north where those trellis beams need to be removable for that unit to be serviced sometime in the future. So it can be done. I don't think with any great cost.
Great, thank you. And I appreciate some of I saw some new elevations tonight, maybe one of the flybys I hadn't seen before. And I've gotten a couple of questions, only 2 so far, inquiries about the trees around the park. And people in Laguna Niguel are very protective of the trees. We've lost a lot of trees as a result of damage and other things. But it seems to me that from the side elevation on both of them, especially the second option, that the trees that are along Crown Valley Park, Crown Valley Parkway, seem to be remaining. I think that's true, and I just wanted to confirm that those big trees that are there aren't being pulled down.
So what you see here, the trees in color are within the scope of our project. If it's outside of the trees colored in there, then it's out of the boundaries of what we're looking at in the development. So we're not touching any trees on Crown Valley Parkway in this project.
Well, and I don't mean actually on the parkway, I mean between the building that you're putting in and Crown Valley Parkway. So that there are trees, which I can see at the bottom of your slide, that are outside your scope of work, but it appears that there are some, the ones at the bottom, are those trees that are going in? Are those replacement trees, or are you pulling trees out?
Yeah, those are new trees going in.
And are they in place of existing trees?
I believe they're in place of some existing trees. But for the large part, they're new.
Well, and the only comment I have is, and I don't have them, they're not on your plan, so to the extent that we can preserve any of the trees that are there, I strongly encourage you to do that. It takes a long time to mature them up, and that would be great, I think.
Yeah, some of those casualty of construction with the significant grading and the actual construction of the project. We can certainly make requests to the general contractor through the construction manager to preserve them. They would need to be monitored. They need to be watered and sprayed down during that construction period as well. Sure. It's also interesting to note that we're going to be up at a certain elevation, and we don't know really yet, without flying some drones or climbing up on some roofs, to know how that view to the east is going to be obscured, framed, enhanced by those existing trees. It's going to be one of those things that's going to be unveiled to us. So.
I had a question: is how old are the existing fencing and canopies surrounding the pool deck? Because one of your questions was to replace it. Do we have an understanding of that?
Mr. Mayor, council members, the existing fencing is about 30 years old.
Oh.
So the repair option that we looked at in talking to our maintenance staff, it's not a good option. We probably will need to replace it.
And I thought that it was probably the case, and I am in favor of, if we're going to do this, do it once and do it right. And as a percentage of cost, it was quite low, I thought. And it would make a pretty large impact in the same use of materials. And I like that you're replicating what was around the rest of the park there, and that seemed very interesting. On the back side of option number 2, you mentioned that there was a trellis on the second floor deck that, I think you'll get to, it's upstairs. The question is there a way, or what is the prudence of extending the back roof deck out a little bit? Because what I saw was a trellis that covered one corner of the building. It's up on the far right hand side, and you can see that the roof above it covers some. One of the things I liked about option 1 is that there was a more pronounced overhang on the back patio up there. That will be a bright sun place, I think. And I was wondering why the decision was made to leave that sort of cantilevered roof short on that side, and why it wouldn't be extended out a little bit to grab a little bit more of the sun. Or the shade, actually, sorry.
I guess the decision's a couple-fold. This is the north side. It's going to be there's going to be a lot of shadow during most of the day on that side. We really only anticipate some direct sun on the majority of the deck when the sun is in the west in the afternoon. And so the trellis structure on the west end is meant to help sort of provide more shade. And then secondly, we were just looking at exploring options. If a deep roof overhang from option 1 is desirable, but the aesthetic is option 2, we can sort of mix and match ideas. It's really about variation and talking about different ideas in both options.
Then I've been doing some of that in a public space in another building, and I was noting that shade is a premium sometimes, and it's hard to do. And if it's built in first from the inception, it makes it a whole lot easier. And I think maybe just a little bit, whatever the overhang was on the sloped roof in option 1, I'd encourage you to take a look at it at least and see. I don't think it's a too substantial design change. I'm hoping it's not, but and I like the trellis effect. I'm not trying to eliminate that by any means, but just a suggestion. On a couple of the slides, I saw I'm borrowing from the Mayor Pro Tem at the moment, that a couple of the slides had the City of Laguna Niguel and the naming on the front of the building. Love that. A couple of them didn't have it, so I just wanted to make sure that whichever one that we go with is the one that does have it. And I think that's great. And so with that, Mr. Mayor, I have no further comments.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Genoway.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. It's pretty exciting that we're getting this far along. Beautiful designs, and I love the functionality of the building and all the programming that we're going to be able to do with the new rooms, and I'm sure our Parks and Rec team loves that too. But when I look at the designs, actually, and I like option 1, and the reason I like that is because of the look, the branding, the uniformity with the city, and it's identifiable as a city building. I'm proud of my city, and that someone would be able to identify it as a city building. And I like the fact that you did that revision to bring in the materials that are currently in use at the park to connect the two and tie it in. I don't look at it as a building in a park. This is a community center at Crown Valley Park. And I think that that has a certain grandeur about it. And that's why I do like option 1. I do like the consistency, the branding that it has with City Hall. We don't need to be, a cookie cutter of City Hall, but I think I like the arches and that look. And when you drive up, it's like, wow, this is our community center. But I do like bringing in the materials that are currently in use there. Couple of questions that I do have is, and remind me, one of them, or maybe it was both of them, had planters around the back patio.
That's correct.
And my question is there something that can be done instead of planters? And the reason I'm asking that, I'm looking at, after this is built, what the cost of maintenance is. And it looked like an awful lot of plants that need to be maintained. And it's, you know, more costly to maintain plants that are at a building rather than those that are out in the park area. So that's something that I would want to look at for, you know, repeated costs every year. Also, and I think maybe Mr. Abazadeh answered this, the replacing the fencing and the guardrails, because I was wondering if that is something we could do later if we wanted to just, you know, stretch, you know, one of the expenses over into another year, if that's something we could do a year or two from now instead of doing it all at once, if that's something we could look at. And then I want to confirm the rooftop kitchen, that is a kitchen, correct? That's, we're way past warming ovens.
The rooftop catering area will only have a sink to clean up. It'll have refrigerator, ice maker, freezer, but it will not have any cooking. Any cooking that the caterer would need is located in the main catering kitchen on the main level, but not at the roof deck. So there is the service elevator. They can bring anything from the catering kitchen on the main level up the service elevator and serve directly to the rooftop deck.
Okay, well then that concerns me because we talked about ovens before, and I mean, and I'm looking back to my Little League days when you know, they'd have a fundraiser and you need to be heating up those Costco trays. And if we're having something taking place up on the rooftop deck, there might be something else taking place in another area of the community center where they're using a downstairs kitchen. So what would it be to add an oven in that upstairs? I mean, I think I think we're not making it fully functional for the different activities that could be taking place there. I'm not looking for a catering kitchen, I'm looking for an oven.
Yeah,
Again, I'm thinking Costco trays, because that's how parents do things when we're putting on an event as like a Little League fundraiser.
Yeah, the incremental cost of the oven probably isn't that big of an impact on the budget. We would need to look at the amount of space we've provided and make sure that there's enough clearance and space to accommodate an oven up on that rooftop, and just make sure that if we have to make that bigger, where does that space come from? Maybe we potentially might decrease a little bit of area. It's just something we'll have to explore.
Yeah, and that's something that I think we would want to be sure that's put in there, again, to make that functional for whatever group's going to use it. And then one of the first pictures you showed was the from the pool level, stairs coming up to the main level. And what sort of control is in place so that people are not walking through the rest of the building dripping water, all wet? Is there some kind of a barrier, or is that going to be up to staff, or what control is placed so we don't have dripping people walking through?
We're going to have to look at the fine-tuned detail of how we're going to keep people from dripping through the building. Most of the people coming to the pool, they're going to want that direct access to the pool, and not trail through the building. But we will have to look at mats and different entry spaces that would keep the water away from that main stairwell. So
because
it's
I'm
just in
looking
the
from a safety
fine-tuned details.
aspect, because we don't want them to be going through. So it'll be more a staff issue than a design issue, is what you're saying.
I think it'll have to be both,
Yeah,
honestly.
we will design the stair that goes from the main level to the pool level with a slip-resistant, really durable, so if somebody does have wet feet, they don't slip. And then we will design the main entry, sort of as you come off the top of that stair before you go back out, some sort of walk-off mat where if somebody is dripping, it falls through the mat down to a drain system. But beyond that, if somebody's dripping wet and sort of turns the corner and enters the main building, I think that's where it shifts from design to an operational issue and how we control that.
Okay, and you're looking at that, Allison?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And then just Two more quick things. On the deck on the back, the trellis on the roof, and going off of what Councilman Jennings said, is there a way to extend that trellis again? I'm looking at continued maintenance of the building, and instead of having all those umbrellas there, can we use a trellis as a shade?
Certainly, we can, if option one is the choice, we can bring the trellis from option two over and look at the footprint. I think it's important to think about, some people want to be in the sun, some people want to be in the shade, and being able to provide that balance of sun and shade, and so we'll right size that trellis element.
Okay, yeah, and again, the umbrellas look nice, but again, this building is gonna be there for many years, and there's a cost to maintaining those umbrellas. And then,
And we can do some more solar studies. Ron Rivera asked us to do solar studies on how often the pool is in shade. So we can zero in on that and find out exactly how often that rooftop is in shade and how much direct sun it might get in a springtime evening or a summertime evening. And the surrounding hills block a lot of that summertime evening light. So it's fine tuning those solar protections to keep the redheads from getting burnt.
okay, all right, thank you. And last item, Mr. Wells brought up a very good point, and we want to be sure that the view from anyone living above when they look down, that they're not looking on equipment, that is somehow covered. We want to be respectful of the neighbors there. And, but thank you, gentlemen, for these great designs. I do prefer option one because I like the branding and the look with the city. And, but I do like the fact that you would be incorporating the materials that are currently at the park. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just going to continue to the right, Mayor Pro Tem Minigar. Comments, questions?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've also attended the community workshops. Thank you very much. And LPA has done such a great job. I truly appreciate what you've done. Your design concept and the two options are great. Short to the point, not to repeat what my colleague said, it was a very difficult choice for me. Initially, I was advocating for option one. But even though it's very close or very similar to the City Hall building, but the reason that I'm voting for option two is because it is rejuvenating, it's revitalizing, it's welcoming. So my vote would be on option two. And also, the second great benefit of selection of option two would be the city would be saving to be exact, $473,311. We can take that money, almost $500,000, and then we can take care of the additional services that you have included, which is repair and repaint of the pool deck, $13,500, $130,000 for the replacement of the fencing, $145K for the replacement of the canopy structure. And we can also save money for the ovens that my dear colleague, Councilwoman Elaine Genoway mentioned. So my choice would be option number two with all those additional elements that you described, and definitely the oven. I used to take my kids, my wife and I, to the area, and the facilities are outdated. It goes without saying. And last but not least, as my colleague, Councilman John Mark Jennings mentioned, I want to make sure that the city logo is well presented. This is not a YMCA facility. 25 years ago, I moved to Laguna Niguel. Everybody say, oh, YMCA park, YMCA building. It is not. We are renting. I mean, the YMCA is renting that for $1 a year from this great city. So I don't want to get into the political discussions on that. It's beyond the subject of this item. For that reason, I want to make sure I see the U.S. flag, California flag, and the city flag, but I want to make sure that the city logo is well, I guess, placed. And with that, I guess I'm going for option two with all the amenities.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Davies and I worked together on the ad hoc committee. I know she worked very, very hard and had tons of input, so your
Thank you, Mayor. It's been a great experience. If you could go back to the number 2 where you have the post-its on there. Great. I just want everyone to know that all those post-its are not mine. Maybe half of them, but they're not all mine. And I say that because when we were given both these designs, for me, design number 2 stood out without a question. I love the City Hall, but the City Hall is a government building. And it looks like a government building. It's strong, and that's the part I like. But when I see a community building, I want it to feel home. And that's why I like the difference there. I think that they coordinate well. But if I had the opportunity to build 2 beautiful homes in the city of Laguna Niguel, I wouldn't want them to look the same. I would want to have that opportunity to make them complement each other, but not replicate each other. So obviously you can tell that number 2 is the way I'm leaning. And I also wanted to say, first of all, in regards to the design, it's great. And one of our biggest concerns with the mayor and myself was that Parks and Rec had room to grow. There's going to be probably more staff going down the line, especially as we get more programs going. So there is room to grow. We've got rooms out there to be able to change over. So that was really important to us when it comes to the interior. Also, I think that was a really great point in regards to, from the council members, making sure that we do have shade. And I was curious, how far does that go over on building number 1? How far does that go over on the top deck? Do you know? That overhead?
Yeah, just going off memory, it's 10 to 15 feet.
And that's quite a bit to cover. So I definitely echo what you guys said. I think it's important. And even if whether we took the lattice a little bit more like that, not having to deal with umbrellas as much, I think that's a great response. Also, that was my sentiments as well, that if we look at the money that would be, I don't know if you want to say savings, but basically we would kind of come up even. We could go ahead and replace the fences and the guardrail. And if you think about it, this project is going to be finishing up basically in 2020. So that is a year and a half before we even get those things built. So I think I would like to see this all in one. So it doesn't look, especially there's a flow to me. When I walk into a place, I want to see something that's new, but it continues and it flows all the way through. It's not like, oh, they're going to be doing that next. And I think especially people, it's visual. That's what you're going to see in regards to that. Again, this has been a great opportunity. I thank you, gentlemen, and your staff. I think you've done a great job. I think, like I said, there's some tweaks that we can do. And again, as an event planner, that roof deck to me was, one of the most important things. I mean, if you're going to have a building, why not utilize that roof deck when you've got Saddleback Mountains behind you and the Botanical Gardens over here? I think that besides that, and us having a brand new community room, it's going to be booked and used a lot, so I'm excited about that. And we were talking about the kitchen up there, so people could even maybe, bring in some type of espresso vending, not vending machine, but, something like that where they have, they're portable and they can come up in the afternoon, something we can look into. But all in all, I'm very excited. I think there's, again, little tweaks, maybe putting a little bit more shade. I would like to see the fence and guardrail and the canopies replaced, and I would definitely go for option number 2. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Great, thank you. I want to segue with you just for a second, because I know we spent a lot of time with the designers, and again, talking to you, Councilmember Davies, on that upstairs catering kitchen, and I don't remember why we didn't put an oven in there, but I was just seeing if anybody, including my colleague, remembers why we didn't put it in there.
Well, before, we weren't even going to have a sink or anything up there, just space, and that the caterers would be servicing that area from the elevator. They come up and just do their thing as an event planner and then take the thing away. So you have as much square footage for all year long, and it's not encumbered by any fixed equipment. That's not typically, but that's often how it goes. But Laguna Niguel is not like any other city, so we can take a look at it and talk with our kitchen consultant and staff and the ad hoc to see what you guys want, what you guys need, and we'll just make the best decision from that input.
You know, weren't we originally not even talking about having an oven in the lower one?
Oh, well,
Originally? We were like, no ovens anywhere?
Before, it was going to be an instruction kitchen or a catering kitchen, and so we were talking about those different types of facilities, but it ended up, from an equipment standpoint, it wasn't that much difference
Okay.
between the two.
Yeah. I have no dog in that hunt
Yeah,
because,
it's
you know,
really-
kitchen, stove, you know, doesn't matter that much to me, although I'm a pretty good cook. But I you know, bring, you know, in and out truck and we'll be okay. All right. Very good. I want to start by saying it's kind of an interesting deal. When I saw both designs, I said Laguna Niguel's going to win either way. I liked design one initially, but again, I'm not much of a designer, so you know, Ted, don't shoot darts at me because what do I know about it? What I thought is that mid-century, you know, reminded me of that TV show, The Brady Bunch, and Mr. Brady designed it. Now, he was a very good architect because they lived in a beautiful home for 6 kids and they lived well. So obviously he was very successful, but I mean, I know it goes in and out of favor, and so as all architecture does. So I thought if we matched City Hall down there as a, you know, this is a iconic building that looks like the Laguna Niguel, at least if it goes out of favor, they hold each other up as, you know, being in style because they're two together. I do agree though with all my colleagues that have liked the design too. And again, remember, I was torn from the beginning, is that it does look more like a park setting. It looks more like what would belong there as opposed to the big building, other than you know, matching City Hall. That was kind of the main thing. But in this case, we did hold some community outreach. You know, I was disappointed at first, but I thought the state of the city, which my colleagues here on my left were at, it was overwhelming the amount of people that like Design 2 versus Design 1. And everywhere I went, most people likes Design 2. But I have a couple things. On Design 2, the signage on the on the YMCA building, you didn't show any signage there. You said it's available for signage, and you have that big lattice thing. So did I miss it?
It's on top of it, actually. It's kind of cool looking.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure we can see that, and I don't know if you could see it from in the pool then, right? You can only see it from the building, or can you see it up through the lattice somehow?
Yeah,
I just really important, as my colleagues are all saying, I was one as well, you know, going to the YMCA pool and the YMCA park for a lot of years before I realized it was, you know, the city owned.
Yeah, no, there was signage on the trellis. You would see it from the pool deck or from the building itself.
Okay, perfect. That's really, really important to me. To Mr. Wells' comments about this Laguna Breca stone versus the fake rock, anyone help me on that? I mean, what's the difference? You know, why is it bad to have fake rock? And then secondly, you know, is it too late to incorporate something like that, or, you know, the other kind of stone? Because I know it is plentiful here.
On that issue, we wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Wells. It's great to have authentic material for an authentic building, an authentic city. There is a reason why you don't see real stone everywhere, and it comes down to economics.
Okay.
An interesting anecdote is when we were working on the Mission Viejo Library in City Hall, members of neighboring counties were told to match it, and they matched their city signs with real stone because they thought Mission Viejo had used real stone on their city hall. So it comes close, but it's not the real thing. It just isn't, because it's manufactured stone and thereby being less expensive. For us to exchange faux stone or cultured stone or fake stone with the real stuff, I don't know what that would cost. I'd love to find out, but it would be an uptick.
A significant uptick, it sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, and again, as far as using a different type of material, because these are these rocks that match, let's say, for example, the bathroom and the bridge that we're finishing up here. To go with the stone that's available here, that would completely change the look, correct?
Well, you'd be searching for a real stone that looked like the cultured stone on the restroom building.
Gotcha.
That would
Okay.
be a head scratcher.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. On the fencing and the canopy, with my colleagues, I also would love to see that, done. But I'd love to see what you guys are planning on doing with that $275,000 before we say yes to that. So I don't know how we would be able to do that tonight if we approve this, because I would like that to be a conditional yes as opposed to a straight up yes on that portion of it all.
Subject to design review?
Subject to design review. And then kind of out of ad hoc, which, is, I guess I could bring that up since we're all here. We were talking about the canopies up on the hill as well, beyond the entrance. When you come across the bridge and you turn right, there's a few of those as well. I don't know if you guys are gonna make a design on canopies in the pool area, which look like the ones up on the hill now, the blue and with the stone columns, or, concrete columns. Shouldn't we have you look at all of it all at once? I mean, to what I think Councilmember Davies said, is just like, get it done, as opposed to saying, well, then we'll do that in stage 4, tier 4 or whatever, which there is no plan for a tier 4 right now.
We'll extend our services as far as you would like us to.
So can you break that into 2 designs, the one for the pool area for this $175,000, the fencing canopy, and then say, hey, while we're at it, if you really want to go crazy, council members, this will make the whole tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 look more like a complete finished product, as opposed to just having those ones on the hill
Sure.
on this side of the amphitheater.
A couple things. Obviously, these are schematic design level drawings, and those cost estimates are based on those schematic drawings. So it's a statement of probable costs, and we're in the zip code. Second thing is just a reminder that the renovation of the pool deck is not being considered here this evening. And so when we're all done,
Okay.
we'll have an old pool deck that's probably in the next tier.
Okay, last point here is along the lines of what Councilmember Genoway brought up. Just general maintenance, and, she brought up the plants, and, that's great. I'm curious about that too, but, once again, I'm not the, horticulturist or the architect. I have none of those skills. But general maintenance, which comes to finance, that kind of starts to perk my ears. Heat, air, upkeep, which is better, design 1 or design 2? Probably, which one do you think would be all around on the maintenance year in, year out?
Operationally, from a heating and cooling standpoint, there's less volume in in option 2. From that respect, it is cheaper. It's got deeper overhangs with the cantilevered roof elements. It's protecting the windows. It's probably a little bit cheaper from a heating and cooling factor. From a sort of ongoing building maintenance, it's probably equal.
Mm-hmm.
We'd be happy to sit down with maintenance group in the city and test the design against their concerns for long-term maintenance. It doesn't make any sense to provide you with a new building that costs you a lot of money to maintain over the years. So it's the intersection between your fiscal constraints, your aesthetic desires, and a maintainable future. So that's that pinpoint that we have to dive in. So from the railings to the restroom equipment to the planting on the roof, we can be tested on all those until the city is satisfied. So
Yeah, I mean, because it's,
it's your building. It's not going to be ours.
$500,000-$600,000 savings, but if that can go away in 5 years in a 50-year building,
Exactly.
Then that's not as good. One of the things I was concerned with personally was the amount of trellis. I guess it depends. I'm assuming we don't make that stuff out of straight up wood anymore. I mean, I
No.
think that there's these new materials out there that would make that last
Yeah.
years and years and years versus us replacing trellises every 3
And
or,
we have
5 or 10 years.
a client whose maintenance person said, you paint wood, you paint steel, everything needs to be maintained. But I would imagine those trellises would be made out of steel.
Okay. All right, well, so again, in the absence of knowing my limitations, of what I don't know, hang on, I had one more note here. I'm sorry, I do have one more question before I state that. We were talking about on the lower level, to get in past the lockers to the pool, of having some sort of barrier, like now there's like a, you know, a turnstile or something like that. You know, I just keep thinking about that, and I'm just hoping that there's just no way that we really need to do that, that we could leave it open. And I know that that might cost us some revenue of people going into the pool without paying their, you know, few dollar fee, you know, or, you know, maybe we put things on their wrist versus things in our building. Have we thought of anything along that? And again, I don't want to put it on you, Ms. Giglio. I know you were working with these guys, but what they're saying is that when people want to go swimming, you know, they have to pay. And so they were talking about putting either plexiglass or a turnstile in that lower level where the circle is right here on the screen. And I just think that that might muddy it up a little bit. Have we thought about that at all?
Well, sorry if I may, there's also an issue of security with kids running from their parents and running straight to the pool deck. So it's not just a revenue generating thing, it's a safety concern. So, and that's something we need to look at. When the pool hours close, the building might still be open, so we still need to look at the barriers to keep people.
That's what it was. Yeah, okay, good point. I forgot about that.
In the ad hoc, we had talked about concealed sort of overhead grill that when the pool's closed, it can come down.
Right.
But when the pool's open, that goes away completely. You don't even see that it's there. And so from a safety standpoint, when the building's still open but the pool is closed, you can close that part down. We also talked about, if we do that roll-down grill, you know, trying to find something low profile that doesn't get in the way but still lets you control that access at that sort of pass-through at the check-in desk. We
Hands
can,
on the plexiglass.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. All right, that's what it was. Okay, I you know, said, you don't know what you don't know, and you don't remember all these things. Senior moment. Okay, so like I said, originally I knew that I liked them both. I knew that we were going to win no matter what. I kind of liked having Junior City Hall because it would keep the, you know, the civic nature of it all. But looking at, you know, what our job is to reflect what the public wants, and many of those people have a much stronger and better opinion than, you know, someone like myself, that I'm going to go for design 2 as well. Didn't think I was going to do that, but I am. So, any other discussion? Any of my council members want to add anything? Did I miss you on anything? Any final input?
Well, Mr. Mayor, I just wanted to make sure it's a combo decision with regard to all the other improvements. As Councilmember Laurie Davis said, that, you know, we do it once, we do it right, we do it comprehensive. With those items that you said, it would be subject to the design review determination.
Right.
So we're on the same
Motion?
page. I guess it's a motion.
I'll second it.
Do we have to read any of this, Mr. Dixon?
No. As long
Okay.
as it includes approving the schematic designs, and you obviously selected a building style.
Option 2, correct.
Yeah. And then he added the caveat that we will need you to look at the pool items that you talked about, and then I threw an add-on for the hill as well. And those are separate items that's not getting approved in this schematic, but we want to tentatively, I guess, look like we're going to move on that, right,
And
sir?
also the oven. We're all.
And the
roof
overhang.
ovens.
All right, Ms. Davies, do I get a second from you? There we go. All in favor? Aye. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for all your work, and thank you for coming out and discussing it with us, all the members of the audience.
On behalf of LPA, thank you all very much. We're really looking forward to the project. Thank you.
Yeah, you've done a lot of work. Excellent job, guys. Thank you so much. Okay. Our last business item this evening is loud disruptive parties, gatherings, event ordinance. Associate Planner Johnson, please provide your presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Slusewitz and fellow council members. The matter before you tonight is a proposed ordinance intended to address loud or disruptive parties, gatherings, or events. Police officers are often required to respond to complaints due to loud parties, gatherings, or events. Some of these service calls require multiple visits to the same location to control and quell these gatherings, which are public nuisances, disturb the public peace, and threaten the general public welfare. These repeated responses to the same location divert law enforcement resources from other areas requiring police protection and unfairly impose the cost on the entire community. The intent of the ordinance before you is threefold. First, it would provide the police with an additional tool to effectively control these loud or unruly gatherings, parties, or events. Second, it would provide for the recovery of costs incurred as a result of multiple responses by police to these gatherings. Lastly, it would serve as a deterrent and shift the cost of repeated responses from the general public to the person or persons responsible for the incident. To briefly summarize the key features of the ordinance, the officer initially responding to a loud or disruptive party, gathering, or event on private or public property may issue a written warning to the persons responsible for the event. Professional discretion is expected to be exercised. If the police are required to respond a second or subsequent time within a 12-hour period after the initial warning has been issued, then for each subsequent response, a police services fee will be issued to the responsible person as defined in the ordinance. The proposed ordinance would only be applicable between the hours of 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. At this time, I'd like you to refer to the bottom of the first page of the staff report, which discusses the proposed fee schedule. And just to kind of quickly walk you through it, the first event would be a warning. Let me get on the same page. First event would be first response and warning would be no charge. First response after the warning has been issued would be $250. Second warning would be $500. The third response and all additional visits after the warning has been issued would be $750. And then any subsequent visits after that, you're at that $750 cap. So as discussed in the staff report, for example, if you have 5 responses, it would be a total police services fee of $3,000. Once again, as discussed in the ordinance, it would also allow for an appeal process to any of these fees that are assessed. To conclude, staff recommends that the City Council direct the proposed ordinance with any changes to it be placed on the agenda for the upcoming July 18th City Council meeting and adopt the ordinance at that meeting. And this concludes my presentation. Staff is available for any questions, as is the City Attorney and Chief of Police Services, Lieutenant Barr. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I summarize as well?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Yes, Mr. Fox.
Just to follow up, and it was based upon a review that we had. In 2 of the sections, I believe, we talk about responses within a 12-hour period of time. That's honestly 8 hours, and we'll make that note as well. I think it's in section 11.732 and 11.733, because the quiet time, if you will, per existing city code is from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. It's 8 hours. When the ordinance comes back and any tweaks that you do tonight, when we bring the final ordinance for your adoption, we'll make sure all things are done. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So everyone's wondering, Captain, Chief, is everything okay? Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Let's go. Let's start on my right this time.
Okay.
Councilmember Davies.
Thank you. I have a question to the chief over here in regards to this, and thank you, because I was doing mine going, wait, 12 hours, then we had the 8 hours, and when we have a deputy called out, do they kind of let them know, hey, listen, obviously they're going to say, you know what, calm down, do what you're doing here, but are they going to say if we need to come out again, it'll be a $250 fine? Do they let them know? And if they do come back out, is it something they actually write on there, $250? I'm just curious what the process is.
We don't currently do that, but the cities that currently use an ordinance similar to this, they do have a form. It's a city form that is basically a notification that they will be fined as a result of the responses. Part of the issue here is that we can go out multiple times. If there's no reporting party willing to be a victim, then we can't stop it. We can't force a stop to the party, and we can't take anybody to jail. Taking people to jail is always helpful when it comes to these types of things, but you can't always do that. So that's the point of the ordinance.
Okay, and that's to me, I mean, I think when people realize, listen, you know, if you know what the discipline's going to be the next time around, you tend to think twice about it. So I think if we do send someone out there and they have to say, just so you know, if we have to come out again, I wouldn't tell them within 8 hours and then like waiting, but if we have to come out again, I actually would be fine to see 24 hours, give you a 24-hour time, because sometimes people start a little bit earlier than 10 p.m., but obviously you know when you're getting your calls. But I think if we can let people realize and know that if you get called out, it is going to cost them, and that sometimes deters people and makes a big difference than them just thinking, oh, we'll get called again, especially since that's what we've done in the past and this is new to them.
We would always make notification because we prefer compliance rather than actually having to take somebody to jail or to
Sure.
fine them. Yeah.
And if they repeal it, who do they repeal it to? Appeal, excuse me.
The appeal comes to the city manager or whoever I designate, and that's normally who's the appeal officer on behalf of the city.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Minigar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just two quick questions. I realize that one of the, I guess, bad examples would be City of Newport Beach, because the reason that people of, City of Newport Beach came up with the specific ordinance was, which I was keeping track of all those developments, was Dennis Rodman used to have a lot of parties in Newport Beach. As we know what he does and how he behaves, he used to have a lot of wild parties there. And a lot of neighbors showed up at the old city hall of Newport Beach, and then the city of Newport Beach was one of the first ones that started with this kind of noise ordinance. So to put Dennis Rodman aside, I have a couple of questions for our chief of police. Okay, somebody complains about the noise of a home, coming from a home. What is your criteria that? How many decibels? How would you gauge that? How would your officers know that, oh, this noise compared with the other one is okay? Because it's going to be subject to interpretation. And if you have an attorney living there, they're going to be questioning a lot of things. I go to a lot of parties in our beautiful city, all over the city, and I have personally witnessed that officers show up and I'm in the backyard, big home, huge home. So I want to know, what is your criteria?
Well, if you were there, obviously, we would necessarily enforce that law.
This is going in the wrong direction.
I'm just kidding. On this issue, the nuisance or the annoyance is a judgment call, and there has to be somebody who's reporting that.
Correct.
If you start to include decibel requirements, then it changes it from a criminal enforcement, and it changes it to a code enforcement issue. Our deputies do not carry noise meters and are not qualified to rate decibel levels and what that is. The city could certainly include that, but then it's going to require additional response from code enforcement.
So it's basically a judgment call by your officers.
Well, and a judgment call by the public, because the public is the one that's going to call us. According to the state of California, peace officers, peace can't be disturbed by a party. We can't be the victim in these situations. So it has to be somebody reporting. They can remain anonymous with this type of violation, but in order to go to the criminal side of it, and again, this is still a civil issue, but to go to the criminal side of it, then there has to be a reporting party, somebody who's willing to be a victim.
Because there are some HOAs, including San Joaquin Hills, that they are issuing specific, rules and regulations that up to X number of vehicles can show up at a home. If it's more than like 25 or so, same address, then they are not going to issue any entrance permit. So, and San Joaquin Hills, I was at a party just last week, and they told me that's the new rule at some of these communities. So I want to make sure that we have some kind of uniform system in the city.
So that was you.
Well, I do want to make clear, though, that related to HOA rules, law enforcement does not enforce any of that. Yeah.
Sure. But when it comes down to noise, then they're going to call the sheriff department, the police services.
Yes.
Correct.
Mr. Minigar, I'd only add that I think the very nature of it, and even in ordinances that I've seen in other cities, some of the ones we've looked at for this and some of the cities that I've worked in, it does come back down to subjectivity. And it's the officer making a determination based upon, if we have Van Halen out there rocking, they're probably gonna, lock it down at 10 o'clock. But the reality of it is where I'm glad that it's subjective is the standpoint that you have the neighbor that just may not like the other neighbor and is calling just because. And then that's where you're going to get the real value out of having your peace officer out there that's able to adjudge it to make sure that it's just not the neighbor that's upset that's going to be calling every 10 minutes because they're trying to do a war between two neighbors. So I think the subjectivity built into it, of course, that puts a little bit of pressure on our police officers and that staff. But I can tell you in cities that implement these type of ordinances, they tend to do a pretty good job, and if we're out there with decibel guns, I would suggest then that we not even do the ordinance if we have to go to that level. That you have peace officers that deal with disturbances that the chief says disturbing the peace and be able to probably justify themselves to an appeal officer if it comes to me if the peace actually has been disturbed.
Very good. Your points are well taken. Thank you.
I would just like to say that I completely concur with what the city manager said on the subjectivity issue. I think it's important to leave that in there.
Very good.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Minigar. Councilmember Genoway.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I'm glad to see this come to us. I know we've been talking about it for a while, and I think it's an important tool in the toolbox for our deputies to have, and I have every confidence in their ability to exercise the subjectivity part of it, and I know that they will do that well. My concern or question on this, on page 3, when we look at the timing of it is within an 8-hour span. So we could have someone at 2 in the morning every night disturbing their neighbors, and this wouldn't apply to them. I'm looking for something more like within 7 days or within 30 days. I mean, you can't keep waking up your neighbor at 2 in the morning, and that's okay because you just do it once every 8 hours. I would like us to put maybe within a month, within 30 days, so that if you got called out and so you've got your warning, don't do that again. Don't do it the next night or the night after that or the night after that because you are disturbing the peace. And I'm getting a high sign that our Attorney Dixon. Well, and that's what I would like to see if we are able to change that, because within 8 hours, I don't think there's going to be that much of a chance, I hope not, of a second call or third call. But it's the repetitive behavior of impacting the neighborhood on a daily or nightly basis that concerns me, and which I would like to prevent with this ordinance. So I would like to see that 8 hours changed to 30 days.
Councilmember Genoway, members of the council, I mean, sort of the purpose of these ordinances are to deal with repeated situations on a given night. If you're talking about every 30 days, it seems to me we're into a different type of issue. We're looking at more of a penal statute, a criminal statute. For instance, we've had concerns about short-term vacation rentals, sober living facilities, and one of the tools we've looked at in terms of dealing with noise, parties, whatever, loud events at these, is something like this ordinance, where we could nip a particular situation in the bud on any given evening, not to deal with potential neighborhood disputes. And I'd ask the chief of police to chime in on this issue.
With some experience in long-term nuisance ordinances, especially related to my time as an investigator working with gangs and things like that, it does take it into a different level when you start making these types of ordinances and these types of issues long-term, and it takes it to a different level, certainly a much bigger level that would have to be probably litigated on some occasions because of the amount of time and the number of occurrences going on. So I would be cautious against extending this beyond maybe a 24-hour period. I think if you extend it into a week or a month, it then takes it into that next level where it could be, you could have some litigation issues related to the civil side of it. Because again, this is not a criminal ordinance. It's not a criminal citation. It's a notification. It's a civil notice that they're being fined. So there's no enforcement on the part of police services. We're simply the messenger on these things. And in the end, if you extend this to 30 days or a year at one location, it does create some civil litigation issues, in my opinion.
What if we extend it to 7 days within a week?
I'm going to leave that up to the city attorney.
I would add the following. Again, the issue to a great extent is repeat calls on one particular day where what we're trying to do is to avoid the police having to respond multiple times. And so the idea of this is it sets not a fine or a penalty, but really a fee for a second or third response in a night, as opposed to a criminal ordinance that's designed to deal with neighbors that, commit a crime, in essence, having a event or something that's too loud. We'd be sort of back to trying to impose like the noise ordinance, which is very difficult to do. And so, I mean, to me, what we're trying to do is to save police efforts by saying if you're doing something in a given night and you're too loud, we're going to ask you to stop. We're going to give you a warning. But if you continue to make noise, we're going to come out and we're going to issue this service fee. And if you do it again, we're going to issue it a third time. It just seems to me it just takes us into a whole different area if we're talking about a 7-day or a multiple-day timing between the events.
Looks like, okay, city manager.
I
I'll
was
let you
just
go
waiting. No,
before
I
go.
appreciate it because it's an interesting legal conversation and it's a very interesting policy conversation because I do see the difference where Terry's talking about. What we're setting up here is a fee to recoup costs. A cost of multiple calls to a property. And I'm going to try to capture the essence here, and it's not rhetorical in any way because I'm trying to think through the policy side of it, and it might be more of a question for Terry. If not, maybe it's for John Morgan. If it's okay, I'd also ask my staff a question as part of it because I understand where you're coming from, Councilmember Genoway. In the same vein that I talked to when I responded to the Mayor Pro Tem's question as far as the subjectivity, and you don't want to get into this aspect that maybe you have a neighbor. Let's just say you had a neighbor that at 2 o'clock in the morning decided that they were going to, blast a stereo speaker towards that person. And they do it. We go out one time saying you have to take you've disturbed the peace or whatever you say, don't do it, and they don't do it again, but they do it every day. That's the essence that I capture from what the council member's saying is that how do we do that? And if it's not done within this ordinance, because this is a cost recovery fee ordinance, if I'm correct, how do we do it through the nuisance process? And is there a separate process then that deals with the fact of someone that's repetitively doing something over a number of periods, only once, so they don't have to pay it because we're going to warn them once per this ordinance unless it's changed. But what ability do we have to deal with that neighborhood ordinance? I don't know if it's a John question. Chief, you'll say whatever the process is, I'm sure you would implement it, but how do we deal with that specific issue that Councilmember Genoway is talking about, of a person that's going to slide underneath the radar, do it one time, maybe at the same time every night, because there's an issue with a neighbor?
I think if you're looking at addressing something that is a chronic problem, if we don't already have it within our public nuisance provisions, it seems like that may be something worth exploring because you're trying to, I think you're trying to curb something from happening repeatedly as opposed to the purpose of this ordinance, which is really partially a cost recovery to deal with law enforcement repeatedly going out to the same residence for a single event. That is how this has been structured. But if it's really to capture a residence that routinely is having problems over the course of a month, a year, there's probably other areas of the municipal code we should probably explore amending.
So we don't currently have anything on the books for that then?
I can't say with any certainty. We do have public nuisance provisions within our municipal code. I don't know all of them off the top of my head. That's something that staff would have to look at.
If I can add a couple more things. It seems to me as to any particular event, you always have your disorderly conduct penal code. You have your noise ordinance, which I admit is difficult to enforce. You have your public intoxication ordinances that may be applicable. You potentially have parking regulations that might be violated. And so it seems to me if we're talking about things that are a couple of days apart, 7 days apart, or whatever, you're looking at individual one-time responses. And if the noise or the activity is so bad, then the solution isn't to think about fees. The solution is to issue some sort of a citation for a violation of the either the state penal law or the city codes. Or also there's the potential remedy of a private nuisance. In other words, if you have two neighbors that are going at each other, you know, maybe there should be a civil remedy with the victim, so to speak, pursuing a nuisance case against the other party. Sort of like that situation we have with the sober living facility in Ladera Ranch, where a neighbor went after an adjacent neighbor.
Well, or it could even be not neighbor going against neighbor, but a neighbor being a bad neighbor to, they don't care who. I mean, they just are going to make noise every night or on a regular basis or every couple nights, and it's going to impact the neighborhood, and they don't know who, and it's not directed towards any one person.
I had a point of inquiry, if you didn't mind. I read this and I had a similar concern, and what I rationalized is that you don't lose your private right of nuisance just because there's a noise ordinance. So under the hypothetical that you have, which would be very annoying, to have a neighbor who repetitively at 2 o'clock in the morning decided that that was the time to have the stereo on. The chief was talking about exactly who's the victim in each of those situations, and then who is the enforcing party in those situations. So you could call each night to police services and have them respond. And under this situation, if they responded once and there was no charge for that, there was a warning and they had to turn it off. But they did it 3 times, they did it 5 times, they did it every night for a month. You would still maintain all your private right of nuisance to use the court system and other things to try to enforce that. And you would have all of these service calls that the police would have made to that as your evidence to try to support to win that. So rather than the city being the enforcing party, which we can get into the business of trying to do that and regulate around it. We certainly do it all the time. But in this instance, the enforcing party would be the actual victim, the neighbor whose rights were being infringed upon, rather than the city that was trying to issue some type of punitive fine or something. And the city could also have an overlying ordinance if it wanted to try to punish that in the event that it happened over time, but that's a different regulation than the one that's in front of us. So I think I've stated that you don't lose your private right of nuisance.
The city then also, though, has the cost of recovery, even though they're still going out every night, or there's still a cost to that.
Agreed. And I support your idea. I think it's a good ordinance to have, that repetitive calls to the same for any. I wouldn't want to tie it to just this one regulation, but if you had repetitive calls to the same residents for a myriad of issues, criminal, civil, or otherwise, that there should be some type of punitive nature that the city could recapture that. And I'm not sure if it's currently part of our municipal code, either civilly or criminally, but I can envision an ordinance, and I think I'd probably support it. It's not this one, but it's similar to this one.
May I ask a quick question? You've got the floor, but if I could. Chief, do we have a lot of these kind of calls where somebody's bugging somebody, every single night, going on and on? Do we have a lot of this discourse in the city? I have no idea.
I ran the numbers today, and it's rough right now. We're trying to refine it out. When this first came up, we asked around. We weren't really aware of any particular house or location or situation where we had this happen necessarily. Again, it's a tool in the toolbox if it does. But we, last year, in 2016, we had the rough numbers for all disturbing the peace calls was about, I think it was 2,288 throughout the city. When you refine that down a little bit and you take out family disturbances, it took it down to, I think it was 2,147, if I recall correctly. So that's it. There's a blanket, what they call 415 response, and then there's a 415 party music. That's what that total was. When you refine it down even further, just to music as the key to in the search, then it goes down to 602. The problem is that we have to include that generic 415 response, so we're still up at that 2,147. We ran that out. We put it into a spreadsheet, and we checked it, and there are multiple responses to the same locations in that 2,147. The problem is we have to drill down a lot further to determine if it's all on the same evening, or if it's a you know, 1 week and then a month later, and that type of thing. So we're still working on those numbers. We're not aware of any particular location at this point where we have that issue on you know, in one evening where we're having that happen. We do get multiple responses to the same address throughout the year, though. Whether that's related or not, we can't tell you at this point.
But I was going to Council Member Genoway's question, is that, you know, it's the same place, you know, one night and then a week later and then a week later. So it's one house over and over a period of time, as opposed to the multiple calls in one evening. Because again, the issue to this ordinance is, as Councilmember Jennings explained, is, you know, is for the one evening. Councilmember Genoway's question is that the multiple deal? Is that, I mean,
we are aware of, I'm aware of more homes related to what Councilwoman Jennings is talking about right now. I mean, sorry, Councilwoman Genoway, apologize for that. What she's talking about, we're aware of more homes related to that, where we go out multiple times for disturbances related to people who are having mental issues or neighborhood disputes and things like that. Related to this ordinance, I'm not aware of any locations right now that we have that issue. But when it comes to the multiple calls or multiple responses to one address related to other issues, other disturbance calls or keep the peace calls between the neighbors, I wouldn't, again, it's still going to be a civil issue. And so it's going to be upon the city to address those issues if it's multiple times in a longer period than 8 to 24 hours. So it does end up falling upon code enforcement, the city attorney, to actually do that. It's not a criminal issue unless somebody's willing to be a victim. I'm not sure if that's answering your question.
Thank you, Chief. It's your floor, Councilmember Genoway.
And one thing that we have, the short-term vacation rental ordinance, which actually isn't going to take effect until January. And we were thinking the noise ordinance would at least alleviate any issues throughout the summer that neighbors were having with, you know, people renting the party houses. So again, I'm still concerned about it just being 8 hours. I'd like to see how can we stretch that out for multiple calls.
May I interject on that? I tend to agree that the 8-hour period may be a little too short. The reason I say that is that while legally the disturbance period is between 10 in the morning or 10 at night and 6 in the morning, that 8-hour period, the reality is that your peace can be disturbed due to other actions and other issues at any time during the day. And again, that comes back to the subjectivity of the responding officers. So the 24-hour period, I think, is a good one, or a 12-hour period. Stick with the 12 hours, because there can be other issues related to disturbances at these locations that are outside that 10 to 6 period. So I would say that a longer period is probably justified. I don't know that I'd go past the 24-hour to make it a multiple day issue.
Okay, so maybe if we went 24 hours on this and then asked our planning department to look at any of the ordinances to see if we need to do something there. So I would recommend we go for 24 hours here.
You good? Councilmember Jennings?
Great, thank you. I'd just like to point out from the comments of my colleagues, I need to get out more often. Apparently, there's some fun going on around. My only concern, and I fleshed this through in agenda review with the staff today, was what professional discretion looks like and how it was exercised. And I was very concerned, and I've heard it in so many contexts, it's hard to capture all of it, but the issue always seems to come down to a hypersensitive neighbor that, one person's backyard music going on while they're sitting outside is another person's rock concert. So as long as I can, that we're allowed to trust our police services, which I think is the right thing to do, then I think that weighs against that, and it stops the multiple calls for what really isn't a problem, and it puts the discretion where it belongs, which is in the police, and they certainly are going to have a conversation, I think, with the hypersensitive neighbor about what's going on, and that creates a good thing. So with respect to the time, that point's well taken. My thought was actually sort of the day and a half to try to capture, if we're going from 10 at night until 6 in the morning, is that correct? Yeah, 10 at night to 6 in the morning. If you did that 2 nights in a row, that's slightly more than 24 hours. So my thought was if you added on the full period of 24 hours plus whatever that gets you to 6 o'clock the next morning, so an extra 8 hours, that might actually capture a 2-night problem without creating a statute which bleeds over into multiple days. And so if you had a short-term vacation rental over the summer as an example, that they were there for a couple of days, that you would have at least, we're coming back twice, that might be a solution that fixes some of that problem. So,
what, 36 hours?
42.
I had it at 32.
32?
Yeah.
I'm thinking
So.
a day and a half.
I'm a lawyer, I'm bad with math, but I'll take it, so.
You good, Councilmember Jennings? Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so call me the libertarian of the group here. But, gosh, I just think right now we have no policy in place for these, multiple visits, loud property disturbances. And, gosh, if someone's partying in Laguna Niguel, God bless them, because that just doesn't seem to happen as much as maybe I would think. But, okay, first response, warning, no charge. I was thinking about, giving them 2 chances. That's kind of what I was thinking before you start feeing them. And then it almost seems like if you're coming back there 3, 4, 5 times, does the money really matter? I mean, if someone's paying $7.50 a pop and they're coming back in this example on the top of page 2 where they came out there 5 times and they're just paying $7.50, $7.50, $7.50, that must be some party that somebody can just say, "Oh, heck with it, man, we're partying." So I don't know if the money really is the factor either, really. So, when I think of this stuff, I think of more youth parties, and maybe I'm wrong on that, but I was thinking, maybe after the second response, $100, third response, $250, just knocking it down. Just, again, we're the city that I still don't know if we have code enforcement, if we've ever collected a dime from anybody, have we? Oh, we have? Okay, that's new since the last few years. But, we used to just send nice letters. Hey, if you could kindly remove that jungle in your front yard, we'd sure appreciate it. So, I don't know. I think I want to have fees. I want the law enforcement to have some teeth, but I just don't know if it needs to be as punitive. And, I don't have a problem with any of the add-ons in terms of the times that anyone had. The thing is that, so now, because I'd asked this question in when we were prepping, if the call came at 9:45 p.m., then that wouldn't be the first warning. The first warning would have to be after 10. Now that we're going with this 32-hour period potentially, does that change the starting time to any time that police services come out there for call 1 for noise, even if it's at noon? I remember, just for an example, they're grown now. One of the teams that won Battle of the Band 2 years in a row was my neighbor. he played the bass, and they used to practice in his front yard when they were like, 10 and 11 years old. Well, one of our neighbors didn't really like that, and they would practice at noon on Saturday, but in the driveway. And, so police services came out. It's like, so I guess that would be call number one at noon. Is that what we're talking about now?
That would be my recommendation, that you kind of go outside that 10 to 6 issue, and the first response would be the first warning. And that could be at any time, as long as the subjectivity of the deputy is to determine that there is an actual, annoyance going on. But again, I want to clarify something. This is not a fine from law enforcement. It's not a criminal issue. This is not a criminal enforcement. We are the messenger for the city, so the teeth isn't for law enforcement. This is these are adding teeth to the city for issues going on in the city that they want to deal with it. Regarding criminal enforcement, as long as somebody's willing to be a victim, we can, law enforcement will take care of it. But I just want to clarify that this is not related to law enforcement enforcing the law. It's related to the city and
fee
and them
recapture.
having-
No, I get it. Well, and again, right now we're recapturing no fees, and so you gave us the number of 2147 or whatever that number was, 2147. So how many multiple responses out of the 2147 do we have? Because on your initial example, last July was 77 calls, and 8 times they went out more than once. So what's the total on this 2147?
I can't give you that right now. We're working those numbers. That's a large number to drill down into.
Okay.
I can just tell you that myself, looking at the raw data, on multiple pages, that there were the same address multiple times that we went to. Now we have to look at whether those are apartment complexes with different apartments, condo complexes with different condo numbers, that types of things. So we have to pull that out.
And what about the space between calls? Here's what I'm thinking. You're having a party, law enforcement comes, whoever the owner, goes to the door. Everybody's still partying, depending on how big it is, if it's a yard party or whatever, if it's the ones Fred goes to, he's way in the back. So big estate. So, but the point is that it probably takes them a while to get the word out. Hey, look, guys, we got to calm down. That's why I'm saying give them a second chance on that before we start feeing them. And then I still believe in lowering the fees, but that's just,
In answer to your question, whether it takes time, no, they notice us pretty quick. When we get there and we notify everybody and we talk to the responsible party, the word travels very fast that law enforcement is there and that things need to quiet down. And they either decide to or they don't.
Okay. Councilmember Davies.
Yeah, what this reminds us is the same concern we had with the alarms. And the whole point is when you've got someone having a party and they're repeating this, we're taking our forces off the streets to go and deal with this. And that's the same thing when we have the alarm fee. And to me, that's the most important thing. And I think that was my concern in the beginning is, 12 hours, that's nothing, or 8 hours. I think because in Laguna Niguel, we kind of joke, say, the city closes up at 10 p.m. So we start earlier here in Laguna Niguel. So I think having that at least, I like the 32 hours because I have an office at home. I hear, there are times that there's things going on and, it's 12 o'clock in the afternoon or it's 3 o'clock or something like that where it is a nuisance and could be called. So to me, I think we have to remember one of the main reasons for this is to let people realize that, watch what you're doing because, again, you're taking the deputies off the street that should be going down your streets and checking and making sure what's going on. We all know with crime rate and things like that. I want them out there, checking everyone, not going to the one's house that is just repeating. And in regards to the fines, I agree with them. And I tell you, I take this as being on my HOA. We had increased the fines because, what we had was so minimum, it didn't seem to make a difference. So we don't want people to be fined. We want them to realize I don't want to have to pay this fine, and then they will correct their behavior. So I think obviously the first time is a warning, but I think and that was the whole process of saying, listen, if we have to come back, it's going to be, this amount of money or something like that. But again, we're taking our officers off the street to deal with this. And I think just like the alarms, it's the same type of ordinance in my mind. So I would definitely agree with this and go with the 32 hours. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other comments, questions? Yes, Councilmember Genoway.
Yes, as far as the dollar amount for the fines, I would stay with what we have in here because not only, I mean, if you have to pay the fine, that means you've taken the deputies off the street, and it needs to be noticeable. And if we lower it, it's not going to be noticeable to those who are paying it. Plus, I'm sure it costs us more than $250 in our deputies' time for what we're paying them to go to that house and to make that call. So I would not lower the dollar amounts on these. And again, we want to keep our deputies on the street, patrolling and looking out for everybody, not just noisemakers.
Yes, Councilmember Jennings?
No, I just would concur with that, and to the extent that we're ready, I'd be prepared to make a motion.
Yeah, I got one quick question, just if you
Sure.
can. And I know we discussed this in my council review, but this page 3 of the ordinance, item B, again, itemized bill sent to every person assessed a police services fee. But we're talking one per, let's say, household or per party, right? We're not talking about, let's say, 5 people at the party getting this fee.
Yes, Mayor Slusewitz, that's correct. I mean, person responsible for event or responsible person is who would be assessed the fee. And that basically would be the property owner or a person who's responsible for the particular event. It wouldn't be everyone who's at the event.
So the itemized bill is just how many times they have to pay the 250 to 500, et cetera, right?
Yes.
And if they only had to, if they actually have to pay a fee because they came out twice, the itemized bill would just have one item on it, which is 250 for a second call.
I assume that's how
Something
it
like
would be
that.
done, something like that.
All right, I just was trying to make sure, the way I read that, it just keeps striking me funny. I keep reading it because I had a note on it. Okay, thank you very much. So I guess we got a motion from Councilmember Jennings. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any other further discussion? All in favor?
Hang on. Stop.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Councilmember Jennings, follow the steps, please. It's your motion, sir.
Take a look at the recommended action.
Yeah, I'll get there. Thank you. That the motion would include the approvance of ordinance number 2017, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Laguna Niguel, California, adding Article 4, Division 7 of Title 11 of Laguna Niguel Municipal Code regarding multiple responses to loud or disruptive parties, gatherings, or event. I move that we waive the reading of the full text of the proposed ordinance. And I believe that's it, correct? 32 hours. Oh, with the changes noted to change page 3 of the ordinance, section 11-7-32 and 11-7-33 to replace the 12-hour period with 32-hour period. Yes, thank you. And direct that the proposed ordinance with any changes be placed on the agenda for the July 18 City Council meeting and adopt the ordinance at that meeting.
Are you good with the second?
I'm sorry if I
may
can
jump in real
interject.
quick. Do we have to make that change? Because we had it, on there, we had it starting at 10 PM, but basically stating it can start anytime within that 32 hours?
Yeah, that was my question. They said yes.
My understanding,
But do we have to put that in there in his?
the way I would interpret this, and if this isn't correct, then we need to change it, is, okay, we're looking at, say, a particular day, 10 PM to 6 AM, and an event occurs at a particular residence. Now, with the 32 hours, if another event happened during the hours of 10 PM and 6 AM, whether it be that day or the next day, then you'd have your second event. You wouldn't have events that occurred during the 6 AM to 10 PM time period.
No, Mr. Dixon, I asked
Unless
that question.
Unless that's the way you want it.
Well, again, wasn't my thing. I didn't want it that way, but I mean, I'm okay with it. But as I understand it, what this would be page 3, time of applicability would be, ordinance shall be utilized for residents cited for a violation any time of the day or night, and then for the next 32 hours after the first call to service, something along those lines. Correct, sir? I mean, because
That was my understanding of it, basically on the statement that I made, that peace can be disturbed at any time during the day in that 24-hour period of a day.
Right.
So my thought was that it would start, the clock would start at the time of the first call,
if that's 10 in
regardless
the
of what
morning, it's 10
time
in the
that
morning,
was.
right.
And then that would go, and I don't want to throw a wrench into this, but that would go, the 32-hour period, I think, was set because we were thinking starting at 10 and then going to the next 6 in the morning one day later, 32 hours later. So I would say you could leave it at the 32 hours, but if you wanted a day and a half, make it 36 hours from the time that the first response goes, regardless of what time that was during the day.
Well, could they be cited during the day?
Correct. That's
Yeah,
why I
and-
brought up the band at noon for my neighbors when they were 10 years old. They could potentially have gotten cited.
Again, that was my understanding. If you look at time of applicability, the article shall only be utilized and resident cited for violations hereof between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. At all other times, other grounds of enforcement shall be utilized.
Well, again, I read that too. We talked extensively about that, Mr. Dixon, today, but the council's basically saying something different, and I'm not, I was kind of opposed to what they were saying, so you guys kind of got to work it out. It sounds
Yeah.
to me like again, what Chief just said is it. which
Yeah,
is
that,
going first call.
I'll say that my motion's based upon what the chief said, which is that they can be cited at any time during the day. And the second citation with 32 hours, at least under my motion, I'm willing to entertain amendments to that. But in the next 32 hours following that would trigger this policy for the multiplier for the fees.
Under that premise, then, under the definitions, the time of applicability needs to be modified.
Yes.
That's correct, yeah.
That's the point.
We'll do that.
Yeah,
Make it
that's
applicable
fine.
anytime.
That would be included in the motion.
It starts at 9 o'clock in the morning, that's the first call.
32 hours from there.
32 hours from that first call, from the first call.
That's what I understood. Yeah, I mean, that's what I understood you guys to want.
And that is my motion, and thank you for the clarifications.
You want to do any amendments to the 32 hours? I mean, since we have it open, it seems fairly random.
I mean, I'm willing to do 36 or.
I would do 36 just because that's a day and a half.
That's
I mean,
totally
just
fine, yeah.
it's-
36, now modify the motion into.
36 is great.
All right.
I mean, so that's again the first and the second on the motion. I don't know, do we have to vote twice? But I mean, it sounds like since we hadn't voted yet, that we could just modify it. Is that in the rules of order here? Anybody, Robert's rules guy? Okay. All right. Any other further discussion on this deal? Does everyone understand what we're voting on? I think I do. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We've got none. Okay, great. Gentlemen, thank you. Mr. Johnson, thank you so much for the presentation. And Leslie, Ms. Roseberry, thank you again. I know you guys worked hard, Chief. And Mr. Dixon, thank you so much. A lot got done. We now are on to, where are we? Other business, council reports. So I went left twice. I'm going to start to the right this time. I'm going to go Councilmember Davies. Council reports.
Thank you, Mayor. Due to the time restraint we were looking at here, I'm just going to say that, again, I went to the league last week and looking at a lot of bills. Please pay attention to what is being put out there. It's very important. They're trying to push through a lot of taxes as well as taking local control away. Thank you very much.
Great. Mayor Pro Tem Minigar.
To summarize pretty fast, because we're going to have closed session meetings. Number one, on Thursday, along with Mayor Schlusewitz and Councilmember Genoway, I attended the American Legion's Post 281 at El Niguel Country Club for the high school scholarship ceremony. It was a great event that the Post awarded 3 top high school kids that one of their parents have attended or have served any branches of the U.S. military. On Friday, June the 16th, Councilmember Genoway and I attended the Laguna Niguel Chamber of Commerce's network breakfast meeting, and it was a great meeting. I was honored to serve as the MC, and the police chief was doing a superb job as the networking facilitator. It was a great event. And very briefly, I guess the last one is with the mayor and council members, Genoway and Jennings. I attended the Clippers Park, the playground dedication ceremony. It was a great venue, and the Parks and Rec Department and the city staff did a superb job. Everyone that I stayed late for almost an hour and a half, those residents that showed up, they were very happy and proud of the great city. Thank you very much, Allison, for your staff and the city. Superb job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Genoway.
Okay, well, I happened to see this quote today, and I thought it was very appropriate, being we were talking about the design of the park building today. And it's from Thomas Jefferson, one of our founding fathers. In matters of style, swim with the current. In matters of principle, stand like a rock. So in 2 weeks, we're going to be celebrating our country's birthday, and Laguna Niguel really knows how to celebrate the 4th of July. We start at 6 a.m. Registration for runners for the Run in the Park, and then we finish it off with the fireworks starting at 9, and in between we have swimming at the park and the great concert at the amphitheater. So I hope that everyone does have an opportunity to participate in at least one of the activities that our fantastic Parks and Rec Department have planned. And it really is, 4th of July is something truly to celebrate when you look at what's going on in the world and in other countries. And we really want to acknowledge the people that have made our country great. And, you know, tonight we recognize Lieutenant Colonel Lundgren for his service for the 1-4 and the men and women in our country's history who protect the freedoms that we enjoy today. And we also recognize our Assistant City Manager, Dan Fox, for his significant contributions to our city. 14 years of dedicated service and professionalism that benefit the residents of our city. So thank you very much. And just as our founding fathers had a great team around them to make our country great, it takes a great team to make our city great. And to each member of our city's management staff, I want to be sure that you know that you are valued, you are important to our city, you are respected, you bring professionalism and ingenuity and integrity to the workplace every day. As a resident, I am grateful to all of you for the services and programs that you deliver to the city. And as a council member, it is an honor to work with you and to be able to bring forward the fruits of your labor. I'm always available for you, and I wish you and your families a very, very happy 4th of July. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Jennings.
Thank you. Concert in the park this time was just fantastic. So we went to the 50s. We're going back to the 60s now. We're moving forward by 10 years this Friday. If you haven't done that, if you're at home wondering and you've made it through almost 4 hours, or what are we at, 3 hours worth of city council meeting, you're still watching, go to the concert in the park. I think these are your people. We had a great time. We had a great time. The food trucks were awesome, and the bands were great. The camaraderie was there, and I was happy to see lots of the smiling members of our city council along there too, and their families, and that was just a lot of fun. I was going to talk about the 4th of July. You did that better than I was about to, so well done, and I ditto that, and I ditto your comments about the city staff. I would be remiss if I didn't close tonight just by saying thank you again to Dan. I don't know what Laguna Niguel looks like without you. Because I haven't experienced it without you. So I want you to know that you will be missed. I don't know if you get your own diamond and a bar when you go there or how that works, but I'm interested to see. If you can get some for us, we'd appreciate that. But really, brother, I'm not losing a friend. I think I'm gaining a friend group by you being someplace else. But if I could emulate a public servant, I would like to be like you. And I appreciate all that you've done through the years, and it means a lot to me personally because I've been a novice here, and you took care of that quickly. And I just wanted to say thank you again, and I hope you and Ann have a great new experience out there together. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Couple things I want to mention. I went to the shredding event, and I just really do appreciate that the city puts that on, and I think it's just great for our residents to take advantage of, and I know that the chief and his staff do a pretty good job in terms of controlling that environment, and but I think it's just great that the city does that for free, because, you know, as a person who shreds a lot of things, a lot of documents, it's very expensive if I had to do it, you know, personally or go pay for it. I also had a meeting with the local contingent of people who are concerned about the planes flying overhead. You know, that remains an issue. We had that great meeting a couple months back. I know that the staff is working on some sort of resolution to complement what the county is doing in their pursuit to work against the FAA. But I want to thank again, Community Development Director Roseberry for her time, and our staff as well. John Morgan and again Dan Fox, as always, you know, stepping in there, doing a great job. These folks, I don't know if you guys know it, but at the beginning of the year, our pictures were all on there, like on a hit list, like, you know, that we're doing nothing. And now they think that we're doing a great job because we are all working together on those issues. Again, went to a senior committee meeting with Councilmember Genoway. But lastly, I want to mention that, you know, the state of the city, and my colleagues to my left were there as well. But Dan Fox, again, you know, I couldn't have done it without you. You put the whole thing together. You made the whole thing work, and all those efforts. Really appreciate it. I know it was well received, and but again, all I did was deliver the message that you created. So I just want to thank you on that as well. And with that, let's go around the room. Chief.
Thank you. I did want to mention about the shred event. It was successful. Not as many people as we've had in the past, but we found out that Soka University had a shred event the weekend before. We served a total of 665 cars. 612 of those were residents from Laguna Niguel. We took in a little less than 38,000 pounds of shredded material. Average time through the event once inside, not the wait time, was 2 minutes and 47 seconds. And I'd also like to point out, our people did a great job. But I'd also like to point out that in addition to the shredding, we also use this as a point of dispensary exercise. So it keeps us in tune for an emergency event should there need to be medical supplies or emergency supplies distributed through City Hall. And it just, we refine our situation every single time to make it as quickly as possible, get people in and out. So it was a success and a good training event. I'd also like to say that we are fully prepared for a busy day and night on July 4th, so you can rest easy as far as that's concerned. And I'm not going to mention the day or related to the upcoming mooning event, but we're also well prepared for that. I don't want to give anybody any ideas on what day to show up for that. So, but we are prepared for that, and we won't be seeing you again until the next council meeting, July 18th. So I just want to let you know we are prepared for that. And then one last thing I'd like to say is well, two things. Have a great 4th of July. I'll probably see you down here, actually. And the one other thing is that we've renamed Dan Fox. It is no longer Dan Fox. It is Diamond Dan. And I'd like to tell him how much I have appreciated his help and working with him. It's been a pleasure. I wish you the best, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the future and seeing you prosper over in Diamond Bar.
Thank you. Last meeting star of the show, Finance Director Erlinson, relatively quiet today. Any comments, sir? Okay, thank you. Come back. Go ahead.
I'd like to talk in order if it's okay.
Sure.
Because that way
Fine.
Dan could have the last comment.
Okay, sounds good.
I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. And I just have one comment in regards to Dan. You have been a wonderful assistant city manager, and I have had such a pleasure working with you. It is nothing but just wonderful, wonderful memories that I've had. To think that when I first started here, knowing that you were also a candidate for this position, having those private conversations about what you wanted to become, and then through the generosity of this council being able to create this assistant city manager for you and being able to create that foundation for you to become a city manager is a memory that I'll take forever. You're a wonderful, wonderful man. You're a wonderful family man, and all that makes you a better city manager. And what's so wonderful from your planning background, and we talk about this at the council as well, his department's the only department that sometimes has to say no. And we always talk about starting with yes, but the planning department is the one that sometimes has to defend the honor of the community and defend the code. And you have found a way to be able to sometimes have to say no, but be able to take the time to be able to make sure that you deliver on a community that is second to none. The things that we've been able to do together will write history. And I just want to thank you. I appreciate you. You're a friend. You're a confidant. You're exactly what Councilmember Genoway said as far as a person that's defined by principle. And I'll tell you, it's wonderful to know that that nobility still exists in public sector officials, and you're one that you're going to be able to have a wonderful history there. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much. Mr. Dixon.
Yes, I'd also like to say the same to Dan Fox. Dan, it's been a lot of years. I've enjoyed working with you. You've always been extremely professional, and I wish you everything, every good luck imaginable. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Chief Adams?
I will be quick. It is, we are in the middle of fire season. It is very hot all around us. We're fortunate to live here. We got fog bordering on this front country that we have, these hills here. But inland, it is very, very hot. So keep your eyeballs open and listen to the news and hydrate and be prepared. And Dan, good luck. You're going to do well over there. Thanks.
Ms. Roseberry.
Thank you. Thank you again for the lovely sentiments. We really do appreciate that. And I think the last time I mentioned that grading permits have been pulled for Via San Sebastian and work has begun. So if you haven't been down Crown Valley, take a look. And then the next time I report on that will be when they are completed. So that'll be in a few weeks, going to take a little bit of time. And then if I could just add my thank yous to Dan. I've known Dan for many years. And his was the first smiling face I saw when I interviewed for this position nearly a year ago. And I really do feel like I've been cheated out of many years of working with Dan, but I do appreciate the 9 months that we had and for me to learn from him. So thank you.
Ms. Bell?
Thank you, Council, for your support and support of all the staff that are here and not here. It means a lot to the staff to hear that from the Council, and we'll make sure that they get that message. And thanks to Dan for all of his support and all of his assistance to me personally. And I'll have to make sure I get his new telephone number to put on my speed dial.
Great. I'm going to go down the line. Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, I just want to echo what everybody else is saying. Dan, we had the opportunity to work together for a few years, and then you left. But good luck to you in your new position, and I wish you all the best.
Mr. Morgan.
I also would like to take the opportunity to thank Dan. I've known him for probably close to 20 years. He's been an exceptional mentor and friend, and will definitely be missed. Thank you.
Ms. North.
I'd like to report that there are 2 videos currently available predominantly on the city's website. The first one being the State of the City event. And thank you, Councilmember Genoway, for bringing this to our attention. But the Human Trafficking Town Hall is also available on the homepage of the website. So for those who were not able to attend the event or are interested in watching it, both videos are available online. And Dan, I am disappointed as a newbie not to be able to have the opportunity to work with you, but congratulations, and definitely keep in touch.
City Clerk Gomez.
Thank you, Mayor. I also wanted to thank Elaine Genoway and John Markin for your wonderful sentiments and your nice comments. It really means a lot to me, and I know, just like Debbie said, it means a lot to the employees here, and also to all of the council for your support, Mayor and everyone. Thank you. It's really hard. I'm a big crybaby, but I don't want to say bye to Dan. Dan has just been a really wonderful person to work with. He's a hands-on city manager. They are very, very blessed to have him. People don't realize how much Dan really does. I've never known an ACM that does as much as Dan does. He does everything from, handling the website to sit down and looking over minutes and details and staff reports, just everything, your input. I just have truly valued your patience and your diligence, Dan, just everything that you have done. A big link in our management team chain is going to be missing, but you left a big impact. It's big shoes to fill for whoever comes next. But thank you for being such a great person and friend, and your personality will be missed as well. And I also want to wish you the very best, and keep in touch. Don't forget about us.
Thank you so much, Ms. Giglio.
Thank you, council. You guys show up to everything we have. You're tremendously supportive. So excited to build this new building and have your input on it. So thank you very much for that. You covered all of our 4th of July events coming up. You can read the rec brochure for everything else coming up. And to Dan, I think you have been here about as long as I've been here cumulatively. Been a tremendous mentor. Diamond Bar is very lucky, and we're very sad to see you go, but yeah, we'll definitely have you on speed dial for a lot of stuff. Thank you.
Mr. Avezana.
Just an update on the pickleball court project. The contractor did receive the county permits today, and we expect them to start next week. We expect the project to take about 2.5 months to be done by the end of August. And to Diamond Dan, he'll definitely be missed. I think that City of Diamond Bar is extremely lucky to get a first-rate professional and a great gentleman. I've enjoyed our working relationship and camaraderie. We'll definitely miss you.
Dan, you have the final word.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for everybody for all the kind words and accolades, and I'm just like overwhelmed right now, but I really appreciate it. You're all my friends, you're all my colleagues. We've been through a lot together, and we've accomplished a lot. So I appreciate the support. You guys do all the work as well, so you get a lot of that credit. You guys make it easy, so we will stay in touch, and we'll continue to, this is a great community, and it will continue to be a great community as we move forward. Apologize for the ups and downs this evening. We had a little issue with the AC unit in the community room, but it was causing the fire alarm to go off, but I think we got that under control now. So thanks again for everything, and it's been a true honor to serve this community.
Again, on behalf of the City Council and the City of Laguna Niguel, we thank you so much, Dan. At this time, we're going to have the City Attorney read us in a closed session.
Yes, Mayor Slusowicz, members of the council. Actually, we have 2 series of closed sessions. The first one is potential litigation. That was a code enforcement matter that I thought I was going to need to talk to the council tonight, but that's no longer necessary. The second set of closed sessions is public employee appointment and employment pursuant to Government Code Section 54957 of the Government Code, which is in the Brown Act, and the positions to be considered are interim city manager, interim assistant city manager, and city manager. And it's certainly possible there may be a report out tonight, but I don't believe so.
Okay. With that, we're going to adjourn to closed session. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Have a great evening.